What's up, guys? We are live. Alright, let's get this going. It's the latest episode of CreepCast. We're listening to it on Spotify. It's called I Wrote Myself a Letter. I Got a Response.
Welcome back to CreepCast. How you guys doing today? We are reading a story called I Wrote a Letter to Myself and I Got a Response.
Got a response.
Which if I wrote myself a letter, I would respond. I would say, you know what? Hey, nice to. I would carry a nice, pleasant conversation with myself.
Is that because that's the only one who will write you back?
That is the only person that will write me back. And I'll tell you another person that will write me back are you guys about this new merch we're wearing.
Merch. We got new
Beautiful
merch.
new merch. Beautiful new merch. It's the we're both wearing the Eat Me Like a Bug shirt. It's beautiful.
Like a bug.
We also got a
So
long
beautiful.
sleeve shirt as well, where Isaiah's the Jeff Goldblum. I'm the tumor on his skin.
Nothing.
We have a
It's
beautiful
me, Jeff
crew neck.
Goldblum.
We have a beautiful crew neck sweatshirt with a ghastly little ghost, and then a nice pair of shorts because it's the springtime. Put out your
Goddamn.
legs, play ball, get out there, stay comfy. So just wanted to let you guys know, creepcast.store. Go there, grab some beautiful merch if you want to support the channel, and if you just want some new kicks, some new to look fresh, feel free. Also, for all of our audio listeners, thank you for listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you haven't done that yet, please go to Apple Podcast or Spotify and check out Creepcast, where you can give us a 5-star rating there and listen on the audio. It helps us out a lot. Isaiah, who writes this beautiful, beautiful story?
This story is written by Veristal, however you pronounce it.
Veristal. That sounds familiar.
Now we have covered his work before. His real name is Brandon Faircloth. He has several different stories on Amazon. One of them being Roadside Sarcophagus, which I believe we shouted out last time. But he has several more that'll be linked in the description. Be sure to show Brandon some love. Brandon has some stories that we've covered before, one of which being My Job is Watching a Woman Trapped in a Room. And I understand that Hunter and I had a bit of a crash out with that story.
There we go.
Okay.
Thomas, that's what I'm here to tell you. Things aren't like you think they are. They never have been.
I need you to tone down the Valley Girl accent by like 2 notches. Just
Okay,
a little bit.
fine.
Because I can tell, I know you. I can tell that you are trying to drive this into the realm of parody, and we're not there yet.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry.
But that was kind of unfair, considering My Job's Watching
It
a Woman
was,
Trapped in a
yeah.
Room was like a 5th part of some interconnected story that we were coming in midway through, so we didn't understand a lot of it. So today,
hello.
we're going with a one-off, like a single story, not attached to any others. It's 5 parts to itself, because the author certainly shows talent as a writer, and we want to give him a fair shake.
I think that's only
I
fair.
want to give him a fair shake. I want to give him a fair shake. I don't know what Hunter wants to do. Hunter may want him to suffer. but-
No, I think you know what, we obviously, the idea of the story for my
Gildy wants to
watching
show
a
me
woman
his
trapped in a room,
paladin.
whatever, that cool concept, but it just went into an angle to where obviously there was more to the story we didn't know about. So I think it's only fair that we give somebody, like you're saying, a fair shake. And this is a 5-part series that is. It isn't connected to anything else. At least that's what we looked up online. So, I think this is a better representation.
Yes, I agree. And also, I just want to say to the audience, we really appreciate you guys being so supportive. Again, Brandon's links will be in the description. Be sure to show him some love. But it's been really cool that every time we cover an author online, we normally see posts about the author, sometimes even in the CreepCast subreddit, talking about how supportive the audience has been, how their books are doing better now, how they're getting more traffic on their websites. It's really cool that being featured on CreepCast has become a thing that a lot of authors are looking forward to instead of dreading, and that's all thanks to your guys' support. So it means a lot coming from us, and it means a lot to them. So thank you guys for that.
You guys are an amazing audience. We appreciate you, and thank you for directing that love to the people that are writing these stories. In doing so, it does nothing but help keep the horror writing community afloat and happy. So just know that just keep giving people love, man. That's all you can do. So without further ado, let's get into it, man. I wrote a letter to myself, and I got a response. Kick us off, dude.
I've been on my knees trying to scrub up all this blood and the scraps of paper for the last half hour. I'm making some progress, but it's slow, and I keep having to stop when my hands start shaking too much. I'm out of my apartment for the moment, sitting on the floor in the hallway, and I can feel my nerves settling some. I'm going to write this out so I'll have it all recorded, and also so I can wait a bit before having to go back in. It started when I was bored yesterday. The internet was out of my apartment, and after casting about for a couple of hours trying to read or do some cleaning, I was out of ideas to entertain myself. That's when I saw the box of stationery on my desk. My Aunt Emma had given me the stationery as a birthday gift the week before, and there was nothing inherently wrong with such a gift. It was a box of high-quality paper and envelopes, personalized with my initials at the top of the sheets of paper and on the back fold of the envelopes. As a 70-year-old man, I don't know why we said 20, whatever. As a 70-year-old man, I would probably have thought that's... okay, I don't know why I can't read all of a sudden.
It's okay.
The gift of what is the... literacy. The gift of literacy has been taken from me. As a 70-year-old man, I would probably have thought they were the cat's pajamas. But as a 25-year-old man, not so much. But still, I was very bored. So I sat down at my desk and started messing around with it. At first, I tried writing as neatly and fancy as I knew how. My handwriting is horrible. My best efforts looked like a slow fourth grader as opposed to a slower second grader. But it was something to do. Then I doodled a bit, but my drawing skills are equally lacking. I was feeling myself getting drowsy, but then a thought occurred to me of what to do with the stationery. I'd write a letter to myself. It was a stupid idea, but I thought it was kind of funny too. So I took out a clean sheet of paper and set to work. Hey Scott, how are you today? My day is okay, if kind of boring. Christine's out of town visiting her parents and the internet's dead. I have zero ideas of what to do with myself. This is lame. Goodbye, sincerely Scott.
I just want to say right now, I've done shit like that before.
Oh yeah, like if the power's out or whatever, it's like, well, I guess it's time to set up a calendar for the year, even though I don't use paper calendars.
Yeah, it's like or even just like writing something to myself in that way. I do that a lot in my sketchbooks. Just like writing some weird thing. I wouldn't even say it's note taking. Sometimes it feels like a direct like trying to almost conversate with yourself in some weird way of like some. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm curious if other people who are listening to this, if they've done something similar in some weird way.
Yeah, I've done strange stuff like that. I've left pranks for myself before. Like I've been on an old laptop.
What does that even mean?
I've been on old laptops and stuff like that, and I've like found passwords that are like or not passwords. It'll be a document that's held like bank account passwords, and I'm like, why did I have to save? And I'll click on it, and it'll just be like a Word doc that just says like idiot or something like that.
Oh, I see.
Like at some point years back, I was like, I'm gonna leave a file that just says idiot, but I'm gonna title it something important, just so years later I prank myself.
Or prank somebody else stumbling upon the computer or something.
Yes, but it's always myself. It's always me.
Sure.
It's pranked by my own thing, so.
And then you kick your feet and you giggle.
Yeah, and I'm like sitting on my bed doing this, and like my feet are in the air. I'm going, yeah. Wow, I'm so funny. I'm so creative.
Then you go to the bank, and then they're like, "Hello, Mr. Idiot." And you're like, "Huh? What?" And then your entire account is built on that name.
I like call Kayla, and I'm like, "Sweetie, what's going on?" She's like, "I don't know, idiot. What's happening?"
I don't know, you fucking idiot. What do you think's happening? Oh no! Twilight episode or something, Twilight Zone episode or something.
Like Rod Sterling walks in,
Rod
he's
Sterling
like
walks in,
an
he's like,
idiot in his own world.
Yeah, a complete and total fucking moron. Approaches and realizes that he has the dumbest fucking name imaginable.
He's so stupid, he forgot he made his name Idiot on everything.
He's so fucking stupid that Idiot fits the name. Of course, this can only happen in the Twilight Zone. That would be a great episode, actually.
Only a man this foolish was tricked by everyone, but one day he decided to trick the only person he could, himself. It happened here in the Twilight Zone.
It happened here in the Twilight Zone.
In the Twilight Zone. I want to make a video about the Twilight Zone. It was such a cool series.
Oh man,
especially for the time.
It's on. I think if you have Amazon Prime, the old series is on there, and it's like it holds up so well. It's such a fun watch, man. It's really fun.
I was talking to some of my editors and stuff like that about if we could set up like a little set to look like one of the sets from the Twilight Zone, and if we could do like black and white and like grainy effects. I could like do a review of the Twilight Zone as Rod Sterling.
You should. You totally could do that.
Yeah, and I could just do the voice, the whole video like this.
The entire time. Imagine a world where you're being called a fucking monkey brain idiot.
Imagine a world where you're a YouTuber. Imagine a world where you're a YouTuber and everyone hates you.
He's like, well, you're probably MeatCanyon or Wendigoon. two fucking simple-brained idiots, mouth-breathing assholes who, he's like, what am I even reading? What is this?
Imagine being so stupid that everyone cries and they hate you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, Rod Sterling.
Thanks, Rod.
I can almost picture.
It's almost like it's my life every day.
Where were we? Okay.
The novelty.
The novelty of the idea had clearly worn off quickly. But I did fold it up and stick it in an envelope at least, even going so far as to address the letter to myself. Standing up from the table with a sigh, I laid down and fairly soon I was fast asleep. When I woke up, it was early evening. The room was only dimly lit by the fading twilight outside. I reached over and turned on my bedside lamp, blinking blearily in its brightness. I hated taking naps. Always felt groggy afterwards and had trouble sleeping later in the night. Rubbing my eyes, I rolled discontentedly onto my side and began getting up. When my eyes slid upon my desk, I sat back down. The envelope with the letter I had written was different now. It was in a different spot for one, but I could tell from the bed that it was also a different color and looked like it had a small stain in one corner. Standing up and going to my desk, I looked at the envelope closer before picking it up. My name and address was still on the front, but hadn't I written it smaller and more centered than that? Regardless, the envelope itself was definitely different. So clearly, I hadn't written this at all. My next thought was that someone had come into my apartment to either prank me or try and scare me. The obvious answer was Christine. It didn't really seem like something she would do, but she was the only other person with a key. After I did a quick sweep of the apartment for intruders, I texted her. She swore she was still half a state away and even sent me a picture as proof. She also seemed worried and asked if I called the cops, but I wasn't to that point yet. I needed to look inside the envelope first. I pried it open carefully and peeked inside, seeing a light blue piece of paper that matched the envelope and was wholly different from the cream-colored paper I'd used earlier in the afternoon. When I unfolded it, I was surprised to see it really did look like my handwriting, but it wasn't the same letter. Instead, it seemed to be responding to mine.
Good to hear from you. I've been watching you when I can for years. It seems like universes have finally given us a way to talk. I'm guessing that you have apartment 3B on Nesbitt Street in Baltimore, right? And your Uncle Tom gave you the box of stationery for your birthday? It's so weird. I guess things have to line up just right. If this actually works and you're reading this, I know it will probably come as a shock. I don't think your side knows about us like we do you. But that's cool. We can swap stories. I'll keep it short for now. I hope to hear from you again soon. Glory and peace, Scott.
I read the letter 3 times. I really couldn't tell I didn't write it other than the content itself, which was decidedly weird. Whoever was doing this was either a very good prankster or I had a dedicated stalker that had taken the time to learn my handwriting. Either way, I was calling their bluff. Hey man, good to get a response. So are you like me in some other world? That's crazy. Tell me some facts about your world and we can compare. And if you have some kind of souvenir you can send next time, that'd be awesome. Looking forward to the next letter. Put the new letter in an envelope, addressed it, and set it on my desk. I then took out my tablet, plugged it in, and set the camera to record at an angle where I could see my desk and the door to the bedroom. Thought about just sitting and waiting, but the idea was too tedious and would make it less likely anyone would come back. I was assuming this wasn't some kind of one-shot joke or harassment. Time would tell. Either way, I decided to go grab something to eat and see a movie. 4 hours later, I returned home to another blue letter.
I understand you being skeptical. Think it's all a joke, right? Well, here's some info like you asked, and I sent along something that might help convince you. Our world is a lot like yours, though it's different in some ways. About 40 years ago, we had a lot of animals started dying off. Not all of them, of course, but most of the birds, all the dogs, and a few other species here and there. Still don't know why. But around that same time, we lost our mirrors. What I mean is, our mirrors stopped showing our reflections. A lot of them just went dark, and some of them, where they have twins in your world, would show us your reflections instead. We knew it was reflections, but because all the writing is backwards. And I can tell from the letters you don't actually write backwards anyhow. LOL! But after that, a lot of people started changing, getting weird or violent. It's stabilized some now, but it was really bad when I was younger. A lot of people died. Anywho, like I said, things are better now. Though we do have odd stuff pop up and people go missing some. Is your world like that? From what I've seen and what I know of studies people on our side have done observing active mirrors, it seems like things are a lot better over there. If so, I'm kind of jealous. But enclosed you'll find one of our nickels. It's got President Robert Kennedy on it. He was president from 1969 through 1977. It's kind of funny timing for what's going on in the world right now. I don't know for sure, but I think he's I don't know for sure, but I think I read he's one of the differences between your place and mine. Right back soon. I just want to say this really quick too. If that first message came, I would crumble that paper. I would not give a fuck.
What do you mean?
If I saw somebody right back there, like, hey man, I'd be like, okay, and throw it away. I would assume it was a prank.
You wouldn't be afraid? You wouldn't be afraid?
Listen, if I got the like now at this stage, it would fuck me up. This is like some Twilight Zone shit. I'm saying the very first one where I was like, okay, I would seriously probably disregard it. But this would be fucking me up. I would not respond anymore. Keep the world separate is what I say.
Yeah, the Robert Kennedy thing's funny. He never got murdered by Sirhan.
Sure, dude.
I looked back in the envelope and found a name. On one side, it had a man's profile with the name Robert F. Kennedy. On the other side is what it looked like a large turkey glowering over a shield bristling with spears and covered with stars and stripes. Oh, that's fun. Yeah. So originally, the United States bird was
should have kept the turkey.
It's gonna be a turkey, but then they changed it to the bald eagle. Yeah, that's funny. What the? I don't know what's the word. Frick. What the frick? There you go. Thank you. It had actually stopped recording over 2 hours, but it was enough. At the 42-minute mark, I watched as my cream envelope gave a shudder and disappeared. 30 minutes later, the blue envelope had faded into existence a few inches over on the desk. I wasn't sure what to do at this point. I thought about asking Christine for advice, but it would be hard to explain over the phone, and I didn't want her to worry. I could call the police, but what good would it do? Even if I showed them the video, they would think it was fake and I was a jackass wasting their time. I didn't know if I believed everything the letters were saying, but I couldn't deny the evidence was compelling. And if the guy really was another me, it could wind up being something really great. Might even become famous for discovering some parallel dimension. First things first, I needed to write another letter. Wow, so this is big news, right? So you're saying you can see us through mirrors. That's kind of embarrassing. Can you hear us too, or just see us? Do your people have any theories on how this all happened? Have other people on your world had this happen where you can talk to people from my world? Very curious to know more. This time I watched as my letter disappeared, only to be replaced with another response a short time later.
Yeah, you've got a lot of questions. No, we can't hear you. Just see. And I don't know about anyone actually communicating like this before. No one knows why the world is changing so much. When the other things started appearing last year, people said it was the end of the world. That we were being judged. But people are just going crazy, you know? I don't believe in all that stuff. Things are changing and we have to change with it. Hey, did you say you have a Christine? Is she a hot blonde girl there too? Is she your girlfriend?
I didn't like the tone of the new letter.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I mean, that is the way to phrase it. They've discovered interdimensional communication, and the guy's like, "You've got a lot of questions." It's like, yes, I have a lot of questions.
But
What are you
yeah,
talking
no, I
about?
get it. Hey, so is your girlfriend hot? you fucking that chick that we like?
You got a babe? I got one too. You want to have a little switcherooski, if you know what I mean?
Immediately, it makes you think that he's gonna try to swap out.
Yes. Oh yeah, that's where it's going, because he's talked about how terrible his world's been.
Yeah, exactly.
About how people have gone insane and it's monstrous. I don't even think it's an alternate him. I think it's like a demon or something like that lying about being him. But if it is an alternate version of him, it's going to try to switch places. Yeah. I didn't like the tone of the new letter, and I had even more questions now. I wanted to keep him talking, so I tried to respond in a way that would make him happy. Yeah, she's my girlfriend. She's great. We're planning on getting married next year. Do you have a Christine too? Tell me more about your world when you can. My letter shuddered away fairly quickly, and I waited for an answer, but none came. Just getting late, so I showed though I would wake up periodically and check the desk. Around 6 in the morning, I saw the blue envelope, and I jumped out of bed to forget to check it.
I did have a Christine, but she was a fucking whore. I had to punish her. I hope yours isn't a whore too, lol. Okay. We're finding it. All right, hold on.
Oh boy.
Oh, okay. All right. We have our. I think we have a little red pillar here, huh?
I think we've got a man going his own way, so to
I
speak.
believe this
Just
does
little
feel
bit.
like a parallel protagonist here is a bit of a MGTOW red pillar.
A little bit. He's like,
Also,
women.
there's a
Am
lot
I
to
right?
unpack. There's a lot to unpack there. I did have a Christine, but she was a fucking whore. I had to punish her. I hope yours isn't a whore too. Lol. So this is what
bloody killed her.
Yeah, well, exactly. So he definitely killed her. But I read that also like him saying like, I hope yours isn't a whore too. Like, still, I'm getting that feeling of these motherfuckers plan on swapping.
Yeah. He's gonna try to swap with him. He talked about everyone from his world got super violent and it's getting
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, this can only go in good directions, I'm sure. So.
I will say, you with the red pill angle, you have my interest.
Oh, that makes you like the story?
Not like it, but I'm like, okay. I didn't know we were gonna be dropping some fucking whores here, dude.
Yeah, just like hard W.
Have we had a MGTOW story yet? Incel horror story?
We've made jokes about characters.
but
I don't think it's literally an incel horror story. I think it's just like everyone's hyper violent. I mean, have we? Maybe.
I don't know.
I feel like we have. I feel 100% like we have. But there's been
barely fucking remember
those
any
about
of those.
Still, I know because you hate any time that you spend presence. And you're just my friend for the show. You've made that clear several times off camera that you want nothing to do with me aside from this. Yep.
Thank you.
Hold on, let me look. Maybe we. I mean, there's David King. Who?
Yeah, I mean, I guess David King is probably pretty red pill coded, whatever. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. I'm hooked in.
You're waking up a little bit, getting a little.
I'm waking up.
getting a
I
little
feel
into
it in my bones. Yep, it's good.
Enough to make my system blow.
We'd like to take a minute to thank our sponsor for this video, Rocket Money. You can spend so much time trying to cancel subscriptions. I hate it. They make it hard on purpose because they know if you get frustrated, you'll just give up and keep paying for the service. Well, today's sponsor, Rocket Money, is here to help. Rocket Money is an easy-to-use app that helps you save more and manage your money better. I love using Rocket Money to cancel unwanted subscriptions. And once you get set up with Rocket Money and connect your bank account, the app finds all your subscriptions and puts them into one list. From there, you can select the ones you don't want anymore. With just a few taps of the app, they're all unsubscribed from them. But that's not all. Rocket Money also helps to automate your savings. We all need to save money, so why not let someone else do it for you? It automatically analyzes your accounts to determine the optimal time to save so you can reach your goals faster. Take control of your finances today. Go to rocketmoney.com/CreepCast or click the link in the description to get started for free. Thank you so much to Rocket Money. Now back to the episode.
Today's episode is sponsored by Mando. Did you have a steady undercarriage? You should. Actually, these lines were written. Well, if you smell, chances are you probably need Mando. Mando is a full-body deodorant that is safe to use anywhere, and I mean anywhere. Plus, it's clinically proven to block odors for up to 72 hours, and you can get it in a stick form or spray can. Mando has great scents to choose from like bourbon leather, Cloverwoods, Mount Fuji, or Pro Sport. So if you want to try America's #1 whole-body deodorant right now, then you can get it at shopmando.com or in stores like Walmart and Target. But thanks to their sponsorship, we can bring you this exclusive offer to Mando Starter Pack. It comes with their solid stick deodorant, cream stick deodorant, and 2 items of your choice, like their mini body wash or deodorant wipes. As well as free shipping and a special offer to listeners, customers get $5 off the starter pack with our exclusive code. So use code CreepCast at shopmando.com to get over 40% off your first starter pack. That is right. Use discount code CreepCast at shopmando.com, shopmando.com. You will get $5 off your first Mando starter pack, which equates to over 40% off your first order. So smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your overall confidence from head to toe when you use Mando. Don't forget to let them know we sent you, and thank you so much to Mando for sponsoring the show. We are now back to the episode. I was done. I didn't know what this was, but I knew it had to be real, and it was feeling more and more like it was dangerous. Throwing the letter down, I started looking around the room. I saw the small mirror I had hanging on the back of my closet, and I yanked it down quickly, hearing it crack as it hit the floor. I tried to think of any others, and the only ones that came to mind were in the bathroom and the one Christine had hung over a mantle in the living room. Christine! I looked at my phone and saw it was almost 7. She was going to be back in town this morning, probably coming straight here. I tried calling her, but it went straight to voicemail like it was powered off. I didn't have her parents' number, so I had to resort to leaving her a voicemail and text message telling her not to come to my apartment. I would meet her at hers when she got back. I debated what to do until she arrived, but ultimately decided I couldn't stand being in the apartment myself, so I left a note on the door saying, Christine, don't go in the apartment, call me instead, I'll explain to meet you. And left the building. For the next few hours, I basically drove solo to the apartments, occasionally parking outside one place or the other. I was sitting outside for a break, so I got a coffee. So Christine knocked your phone out from bed last night, and they had put it in a bowl of rice to dry out. Christine left to come back home a few hours ago. She must have forgotten it. I felt my mouth go dry. Her mother was asking what she should do to get Christine the phone, but I told her I'd have to call her back and hung up. Based on when she left, she should have been back at least an hour at that point. I knew she wasn't at her apartment, so I sped back. I saw her car parked down the street from the place. My head started bleeding. I went upstairs, I reached my door and saw the note I had left was gone. In its place was a blue sheet of nice stationery bearing a drawing of a red ink card and the words, "Come on in my handwriting. Oh no. I started yelling her name as I fumbled the door open, but as I entered, I could tell she wasn't there. The apartment felt empty and lifeless. I ran to the bedroom, stumbling to a stop at the doorway. My mind had difficulty making sense of what it was seeing at first. On the wall next to my desk, there were strips of paper pasted to the wall and a small door about 3 feet. The strips seemed to be some combination of blue and green paper, speckled here and there spots of crimson and soggy into the baseboard. There were partially bloody handprints on both sides, so someone had been where the door was. Leading away from the paper door, the floor was covered with more blood, and as I looked closer, I could see several thick runnels in the wood that I thought at first were scrapes and cuts of something heavy. But then I saw one of Christine's bloody fingernails tore off at the nail bed and ragged, jutting out of one of the grooves she had raked into the floor in her fight to get away.
God damn. Good lord.
That's rough, man.
This is just, this hit the gas. Good God.
I collapsed to the floor and began crying. After a few minutes, I pulled myself together enough to look around the room for any other clues or some means of helping her. That's when I saw the blue envelope on the desk.
You were right. She's a hot one. Better than mine, even. But I can tell she has those same slutting ways.
Oh my god!
I'll tell you, what I tell you? I said incel horror film.
Whoa, you were right.
Incel horror film.
Man.
Bear trap. Psh.
Oh.
You were right. She's a hot one. Better than mine, even. But I can tell she has those same slutting ways. It's how it is. But don't you worry. She'll find less tolerance for that over here. And I'll be sure to keep it correct. Don't bother trying to come across either, bud. I figured out how to do it. I'm gonna have to keep it close to my vest. I have to apologize for not being completely honest before. Things are worse here than I let on. Maybe this Christine can keep me happy and satisfied with my life. But who's to say? Like I told you, some people are really losing it over here. Might be I have to come visiting again sometime. More permanently. Till then, glory and peace. Or as you would say, sincerely, Scott.
Oh no. Every implication is horrible.
The implications are heavy.
That's pretty rough, dude. That's uncomfy. As I'm finishing writing this, I dread going back into that room. I know I have no way of getting her back, and I know I can't have her blood being found in my apartment. Even without her evidence, there will be questions when she's missing. All of that is in the background. I can't shake the feeling. I look around and see nobody. Then I notice the dingy brass door of the elevator across the hall from where I'm sitting. The reflection there is dark and distorted, but I can still see myself in it. It looks like me, and I can tell that it isn't. It's that version of me. It's laughing.
That is the end of part 1. Little part 5 series. I will say, ramped up. That is, we're
So fast.
it's a little bit of rough pumpkins. I'll be honest. We're you know, it's getting a little in there. I will say, I think it's interesting, the idea of parallel worlds. You know what it kind of reminds me of is that VHS short where the guy opens that portal between worlds.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, and he goes over there and it's like a
all
weird like,
satanic.
demon worshipping. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like their like genitalia are like monsters or whatever.
Yeah. You know, I still like this idea of contacting your parallel life self that is able to interact in your world. It's going to set up a lot of moments, but this idea too, maybe his girlfriend got dragged off like that. I mean, we don't know for a fact, but she's probably dead, right? Or no?
No, he still got her. That's why he said like, we'll see if this one can keep me satisfied.
Oh yeah. So we're going into a little oopsie daisy territory.
Yeah, that's such a funny way to describe what's happening to her.
Oopsie. No. No.
I mean, she may wish she was dead, but that's not
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think the big UK of oopsie daisy.
I see.
Let's just keep it rolling though into part 2.
Part 2. Oh boy. Scott, I know you're a good guy at heart. I know that because, well, you're me. And despite my flaws, I like to think I'm a good guy too. I understand that your world's different than mine, and that has to have affected you a lot. Who's to say what you would be doing, who you would be as a person, if you had grown up like I did? My point is, I don't blame you for anything. I just need you to listen to me. I spent a lot of time with my dad growing up. I don't know if that was true for you or what your version of dad was even like, but mine was great. He was always there for me. And not just out of some sense of parental duty, but because he really loved me and wanted me to succeed in life. Sometimes wild habit, but mostly nature. I remember the first time I killed a deer. He took up his knife to show me how to field dress it, but before he handed it to me, he stopped, put his hand on my shoulder.
We never kill things or hurt things unless it's necessary for your survival or some greater good. The deer is clean, healthy meat that will feed us for someone else. Us being willing or able to kill this deer doesn't make its life. It just means that we have value ourselves above others while still trying to live a good and virtuous life. You understand?
I said that I did, and I was being honest at the time, but of course that was the understanding of a child. The world has taught me to more fully appreciate the importance of his words now.
How do we also not know that this isn't bad Scott? Or evil Scott?
Because it's in the italics from what the story said so far.
Yeah, but he could just change it over though. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, he could, but I'm assuming they're not breaking that rule.
Have a good one.
oh, okay.
This sounds to me like our Scott is desperate, and because I mean, like he can't get to the other world.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's trying to get Christine back, and he doesn't know how else to do it other than plead. He's begging here.
Yeah, he's on his knees begging for sure.
Yeah. My father would also tell me stories about his own childhood. My favorites were always about the dog he had growing up named Rex. Hunting dogs, does that remind you of anything, Connor? Does that tell you of anything?
I close my eyes only for a moment, and the moment's gone. My dog is dust in the wind. My little pupper is still dust in the wind.
Every time I open up the subreddit, it's still just posts of like wheelchairs with machine guns mounted to them.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. You big lipped son of a bitch. You're ruining my life.
You're welcome. You couldn't get out if you wanted to. You know that?
You're sounding very much like an evil Scott right now.
Yeah, well, look, you're my Christine. Hopefully you can satisfy me in this life.
Jesus! Come on, man!
You're the one who said you wear the leather dress. You're the one who said you wear the leather dress.
I can't. I close my eyes only for a moment, and the moment's gone. My asshole is dust in the wind.
How's that pleather feel, Christine?
It feels good, Daddy. Yeah, I know. We're cutting all that.
Uncle.
We're cutting all that.
My father would also tell me stories about his own childhood. My favorites were always about the dog he had growing up named Rex. Dad had gotten him when he was angry, and he loved that dog more than anything. They really were best friends, I think. They would play together, explore the forest around the farm where my dad grew up, and were generally inseparable as much as life allowed. When Dad got old enough to drive, Rex would ride everywhere with him. He was big for a dog, apparently, so he could easily sit in the seats and stick his head out the window to catch smells as they drove to town or out to go camping. My version of our father never went to college, but he was a smart man and a hard worker. He opened up a little hardware store at 19, and within a couple of years, he had bought a house and was saving up ring money for that girl that is our mother. One night, as he was closing up shop, he heard Rex start growling. He turned to see where the dog was and found him at the back door, hackles raised, teeth bared. At first, my father thought it was a raccoon, or another dog, maybe. Grabbed Rex by the collar and opened the door to look out. It was dark and he couldn't see much, but suddenly he was knocked down and being attacked. He would never say by what, although I've always suspected that was more to keep from scaring me too much than because he didn't know. Rex broke free of his grasp and charged the thing, whatever it was. It snapped, snarled, bit, clawed, and after a moment, my father was free of it. He was preoccupied by Rex, who was fighting it. No one was going to mess with our dad. Rex drove the thing off into the woods, but he was hurt badly. Too badly to make it, in fact. Father held him crying as he died.
Muscle memory.
The first time Dad told me that story, I was 15. I was horrified. I've been hearing stories about Rex for years. I loved Rex, but like I knew him even though he died well before I was born. Truth be told, Rex wouldn't have lived that much longer anyway. But still, it was so sad. I sat there crying my eyes out, and I remember my father's story too. It was one of those few times I ever saw him.
Scott, this world is a hard place, and it's going to get harder. Rex and me, we each other with everything we had. He sacrificed himself to save me. I can't live a life with him. I can't make sacrifices. Whether it's something that's important to you or someone else, sometimes the cost has to be paid, and you have to be willing to pay it. Being too afraid or too weak to do what needs to be done is a greater sin than trying and failing or making the wrong choice. Always remember that.
And I have, Scott. I've tried to make the best decisions in my life. And all things considered, things have turned out well for me. For instance, I remember the first time I saw
It's too far away.
I felt such a strong surge of excitement and anticipation that I didn't even know what to say to her. later when we made, oh, he's going into, okay. When we made love for the first time, I remember she cried.
Okay, what the hell are we doing
like
here?
that sometimes.
She cried. Bro, you gotta
honestly,
get out.
same,
Yeah,
same. That's me too. That's me too, man. I feel you.
That's just what it's like. 58 minutes of me crying, you know, talking about, you know, how I'm sorry, how I'm scared and stuff like that. That's typically how it goes. You know?
Yeah.
She cried. If I'm honest, I cried a little too. What? Oh, you're right.
Bear trap.
Oh my
dude.
gosh.
Fucking,
Dude,
fucking,
okay.
fucking bear trap. How do I do it?
Bro.
How do I
Dude,
fucking do
okay,
it?
you know what? You know what? This one time, that was a bear, and you caught it in your trap. That was.
I just don't even.
That was. Did you look ahead? Did you like scroll to the end? That was a Hail Mary pass.
That was fucking
insane.
fade away, 3-pointer buzzer beater, dude. That's what that was.
That was actually ridiculous. That was actually that. Okay, good job. Wow. Okay, so I was like, why would she cry? Why would you even mention that? I cried a little too. And then the next sentence, and I think I was too hard on her initially. I thought she was a whore, like the old Christine.
This story is brutal, by the way. This is.
Yeah, this is rough. This is rough. But yeah, you're right. The entire time it's been bad Scott. It's been evil Scott writing this. Man. I'm honestly so upset that you were right that it's hard for me to continue. That you were that right about something I set you down and was like, no, that's not what's happening.
Well, I was just sitting there and I was like, at what point, even like right now, when he's writing notes and stuff, we've established that the guy can change it. Evil Scott could change it, right? So I was like, well, what's the difference between that and him typing? So I just figured at some point it would happen, but at part 2, I was kind of in the same boat as you, though, where I was like, maybe it's too early. But that's a great twist. Because it's great because it reads like it's him pleading, but really it's like...
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
It's an earnest way of,
It's an earnest way to be like, I only take life that I need to. You know, like him, yeah. I think I was too hard on her initially, Scott. I thought she was a whore like the old Christine, but I think living in a softer, kinder world kept her from developing some of those rough edges that I was trying to wear down on the old Christine. You still got a slut look about. Oh my gosh, dude.
good.
I need to call my wife and tell her I love her. Still got a look about her face at times, so she bears watching. But I do think she can be rehabilitated if you are firm with her. Okay, all right. You know what? You've had some dubs here between the red pill thing.
I told you, I'm like, it's a red pillar fucking. I'm telling you.
That's become more true as the stories go on. Wow. Oh, dude. Okay. I want to apologize. Go ahead.
Well, I want the fucking evil Scott. I want our regular Scott to man the fuck up at Doctor Strange a doorway and get this motherfucker. That's what I want. Come on, Scott.
That'd be so funny if like he's about to kill. If like Bad Scott's about to kill this. Any last words? And then Doctor Strange appears and like, oh my God. I want to apologize to you too, Scott. And I came back and took you by surprise and... What? Okay, took you as in kidnapped. That's what, because if you go to the other paragraph, it means kidnapped.
Yeah, okay.
It means kidnapped. Yeah, that's what it means. I was about to be
God, I was going to be like, people are going to be pissed that we're reading this.
Lose their mind.
Oh my God damn, dude.
Woo!
Tommy Taffy, you pretend there's a wrestling match happening, but I tell you what, evil Scott's not being so generous by going to the next room. That motherfucker is coming in.
Tommy Taffy had the decency of shutting the door.
Good God.
Watch out. Oh, we haven't talked about it on the podcast yet, but yeah, that's being made into a film.
Yeah, I was gonna say we should, whenever it comes out, we should watch it and talk about it for sure.
100%. Yeah. I want to apologize to you too, Scott. When I came back and kidnapped you by surprise in your bed, well, I'll be honest, I was disappointed. I expected more of a fight. but you were half asleep, just like our Christine. You've had the luxury of a softer life than I've had. I don't think less of you because you couldn't stop me from forcing you through the door. I also want to say I'm sorry because I know from your perspective I may seem like a bad guy. I took your girl and then you from this cushy life and pushed you into a world that, well, from your point of view might seem a bit like hell. I want you to know I didn't do that out of some ill will towards you or even Christine. But I had to get out of there. And sacrifices had to be made. And those sacrifices are valued by me, Scott. It's important that you know that. Don't worry about trying to get back either. I know from the peaks I've managed to get in the last couple of weeks that you were trying, and you had figured out that combining our two papers was part of it, but you won't get the rest. And I made sure to not leave any of your letters or envelopes on my side anyway. This letter and envelope will be the only paper from your old world you will have. Trust me, it isn't enough. I don't say this to trick or discourage you, but because I don't want you wasting time and energy chasing some impossible goal when you should be focused, getting your feet under you and making a new life. I really hope you two crazy kids make a go of it over there. LOL, who's to say? You might be better at that life than I ever was. As for me, I just got back from walking in the park across from my. It seemed like I could hear birds singing everywhere, and I saw a little wild dog. Can you believe it? A real live dog.
Fuck this guy.
That's cool. I know this world isn't perfect. I can already see a lot of impurity and corruption. Maybe I can help correct some of that. Just can't woman yet. I'm going this afternoon. I name it after you. Well, good life. Sincerely, Scott.
End of part 2.
Right.
So wait, let me ask you.
That was cool. I like that.
Let me ask you this: did he kidnap both his own, like his new Christine and new Scott, or basically good Scott, good Christine, or however you want to look at it, just to make it easier to say, so that he could cover up his murder in the other world? Or do you think murder is like not a huge issue in that universe?
Murder's not a huge issue because he said, while describing his dad, he said something attacked him, and my dad never told me what. And then there at the end, he says, can you believe it? A real live dog. Implying in the other universe, dogs are gone. Like some cataclysmic events happened. So I don't think murder would be that big of a deal. I think it was because both other Scott and Christine were probably the only two people who would see through his illusion, right? Like if someone wanted to replace you who looked exactly like you, Hunter, they would have to probably replace you and your wife, right? Because your wife could tell.
Yeah, I mean,
realistically, in your
true.
scenario, they'd also have to replace.
Well, your
they'd have to
family,
replace Harry
everything.
and Nick too.
Like all you'd have to like replace your family and stuff. I'm wondering. I'm wondering
if
if.
you fainted enough, I feel like someone could probably trick your parents. Out of the house.
That's probably true. Yeah, I just didn't know. I didn't know if it was something where it's like, oh, here to cover my tracks and this murder I did. Here's this thing. It's just it's weird. It's weird to me that he would.
Has been dialed in this episode.
Well, I don't know. All I'm saying is that I thought the whole idea would be he's like, yeah, my Christine sucked. This is better. He's going to be so basically be like, okay, I'm going to steal your wife and I'm going to date this new Christine or like this world that I live
That's
in.
where I thought it was going.
So that's why I'm kind of confused of like, well, why the fuck would he? So I mean, maybe the more will be offered in, obviously, but I also didn't know if he's like, hey, I feel bad for taking you from your world, but here. You could have your girlfriend with you, or at least this like that way. If it was a crime, then it's like, well, at least people won't be looking for you. People won't think that you murdered her because she still is here, etc. But that would make a problem for him in his actual world. Because now evil Scott has to deal basically with her parents, who we've already established are like, hey, she dropped her phone. You know, did she make it over to your house? Okay, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Part 3. Let's keep going.
Part 3. I'm enjoying this so far. This is pretty unique.
It's a fun take on parallel universes for sure. I like the idea too of notes, like notes being doorways, basically.
Yeah, they're like writing back and forth to each other, and it's like.
Do you still like the mirror idea? I feel like I could do without the mirror.
I mean, it was fine in the first part, but I think we've gone beyond it now. I think the mirror thing was being used as a setup to get us that payback, or to get us the payoff of seeing himself laughing in the mirror. But
yeah,
I agree
even then,
that if that's all it does, we could do without it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I understand the idea too of like your reflection is like reflecting into another world. all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's fine or whatever, but I do like the idea of creating like almost a, how would you say that? It's not like, it's probably like an incantation or something, but like writing on a paper to yourself can be
summoning,
like a summoning or a ritual. There you go, like a ritual, you know, that you would never even think to do. It's like anybody can do it, but who's going to write a letter to themselves?
Who would do that? Yeah. Like it's a gateway that's always there for everyone, but just no one's done that, right?
Do you think in this universe, when people do that, people who have diaries, do you think that they
no, because it's not addressed. Because you made a big deal about the address and everything, right?
Yeah.
That would be the deciding factor. Because otherwise, then yes, anyone with the diary.
The twist of that part was really nice.
That was great. That was very well done. That honestly elevated the story several levels. Like the return. If you hadn't predicted it, I would be much more excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's just for people who don't know, we're reading this. The first part is just italicized when we're talking about our protagonist, Scott, and then it's bold letters when it's referring to evil Scott. But in this one, it was basically all italicized. So it immediately reads like a letter, like just a super long plea for, hey, please open this fucking door and give me back my girlfriend. Or whatever, but that's how it just, you know, even reading like that's just the great thing about this like writing format is being able to trick the audience in that way, you know, because that's, you know, I mean, now if you look at the formatting as italicized as our world and bold as their world, then it's like, of course you would be italicized, you know, like that kind of vibe.
Yeah. I woke to ashes fluttering down onto my face like sullen snowflakes, covering my skin in 100 gray kisses of burned down yesterday. I coughed as I sat up, pulling in another spasmodic breath as I wiped at my eyes. The ashes had caked there because I had apparently been crying in my unconsciousness. My hands came away black and running as my eyes began to water again. And blinking through the smut and the tears, I could see the flakes falling down on me through a hole in the roof, or rather the ceiling, because Scott's apartment wasn't on the top floor. Yet looking around, it was Scott's apartment, or a very close approximation of it. It was far more run down and dirty, and some of the decorations were different, but the layout and the general appearance was similar. My head was still drifting through a fog so thick I could scarcely tell I was even in a fog, but I was starting to remember myself and Scott and what had happened. Looking up, I remembered that there should be at least 3 floors above us, and at the edges of the hole in the ceiling, I could see parts of those ruined rooms and the shadows upright. It seemed that the top part of the building had been destroyed somehow at some point. Through the hole, I was up behind, I could see the ashes, and beyond that, the stars. I came back to myself as I remembered Scott attacking me. Well, not Scott, it's what it looked like. A lot. Like some older, crazy twin brother. He had dragged me into Scott's bedroom, and I had seen the floor and wall covered in blood. He dipped his finger in the blood and traced the outline of a rectangle inside the perimeter of a strange collage of colored paper pasted to the wall. I felt amazement push through my terror as I saw a crack appear in the wall where his finger had traced, and at his touch, it swung open as a door. I had known then what was coming next, however insane or impossible all of this was. I fought harder to get it out, but it was bigger. And when he slammed my head against the floor the second time, I couldn't find the darkness that was. I felt the back of my head at the memory and gasped at the pain as my hand found a clotting wound in my sweaty tangle of hair. I started looking around again, and I could see I was in the living room of this place that is like Scott's apartment, but not. My brain had been screaming 1,000 things that are wrong since I first woke up, but I could only process a few at a time. Just as I realized that not Scott was coming back from the bedroom, my hand found its way up to my throat, and the dog collared there. Oh gosh.
Hello, Christine.
His grin was so like Scott's that its familiarity made it all the more ghastly on this man.
I just want to say, I love how he's introduced. Like, you keep thinking that it's going to be a one thing, so that now we're all from the perspective of Christine.
Yes, yeah. That's what this has been.
Yeah. I think that's sick.
You don't know who's talking at any given point. Yeah. And not in a bad way. And that's
it's great. Yeah. Which is great for a parallel where it's like, I don't know who's real, who's who, you know?
Yeah. uses the medium to play well to itself, I agree.
Yeah.
His face was thin, and his eyes were two bright pieces of glass and sunken glittering with intelligence and passion. I can now see that it was, despite the longer hair and the harsher lines on his face. This was my son. I didn't know how it was possible. Once the thought was fixed in my mind, I knew it was true.
Hello. Where did you take me?
I tried to sound confident, but it was a weak attempt to give me hurt and confused in a dog collar in some bizarre place with some bizarre version of Scott. His smile widened.
That's a fair question. This is my world. I brought you from yours after hearing good things about you from Scott. Well, the other Scott.
He raised his hands in a placating gesture.
Look, I know what you're thinking. I kidnapped you, knocked you out, and brought you to this place. Hell, I put a collar on you. I guess this all looks really bad, huh?
This guy is such a jerk.
I know.
He's like just a awful man. He crouched down on his haunches next to me.
I brought you here because I miss my old Christine. See, we were together here too. Things didn't work out too well. I'm not saying it wasn't selfish to take you away, but it was with love in my heart. And as for this,
He pointed to the dog collar.
I just wanted to make sure you didn't run out if I wasn't awake or paying attention when you came to. My world is pretty different from yours. It's not safe out there a lot of the time. I don't want you getting hurt on my account.
I stared at him, trying to make any scorn out of my expression. He was clearly insane, and I didn't want to risk setting him off, especially when I really didn't know what was going on or what this place was like. That was the key. I needed as much information as possible, and I needed to see how much latitude I could get before trying to escape.
So, you'll take the collar off now?
He chuckled and shook his head.
I can already tell I'm going to like you better.
Sighing wistfully, he went on.
No, not yet, honey. It'll take some time for you to acclimate. And until you do, I'm afraid you'll be your own worst enemy. For now, just rest and I'll bring you some food. Your chain goes far enough for you to reach the bathroom over there, but just remember, do not flush it during nighttime, okay? It's very important. This building is fairly secure, but the neighborhood has gone to shit lately. Lots of invasions at night. They target buildings where they hear noise or see lights. The blinds keep the light in pretty well, but the pipes in this old bitch keep a fuss when you flush. So just save that for the morning, and we should be shiny golden.
The next few days, I do like how, like, even though it's not the focus of the story, there is some attention given to the alternate world. Like, there's no dogs, there's creatures.
Well, it makes it more compelling, I think.
It does, yeah.
Well, I don't know if I feel like that's like. There's obviously something odd that happened to where all dogs died or something, but it almost just feels like.
I think it just means animals are involved.
Yeah, it's like just a fucking weird dystopian future or something parallel.
It reminds me of The Road. The
Yeah.
novel.
Well,
It feels like that world.
That's why it almost feels like it's I still don't know if I'm thinking creatures as much as just like, you know, I mean like fucking homeless aliens or new barbaric tribes or forming in cityscapes.
The next few days were a cycle of sleeping and eating and trying to figure out the best way to escape. What exactly I would be escaping to. The best part was primarily facilitated by Moss. He spent hours each day talking to me, seemingly starved for conversation and human contact. He had some kind of job, and depending on something he called occurrence reports, he would be gone working for periods of time most days. But whenever he was there, he was usually talking to me. He would tell me stories about himself sometimes, but a lot of the stories what was my childhood? Had my life been before he took me? What kind of things did I like to do? It was also that. He had this aura of discord and violence and rage. It was so palpable. It really vibrated. But he was never rough or even rude to me, aside from the obvious of holding me against my will. It was made stranger because parts of him did remind me of my Scott. The way his face would light up when he was telling a story, or the way he would look at me sometimes when he was, no, I was so it somehow made it all worse. I loved being choked to death by whatever sickness. I tried to find out more about the world I was in, and he told me something much. He said that years ago, before he was born, things had started changing. Animals had started dying off for no discernible reason, and all at once, This had led to the partial collapse of a number of ecosystems around the world, which led to disease and famine and death. According to Not Scott, things stabilized some eventually, but they were never really right again. Strange things would happen. People would disappear or go on murder sprees. Pods of dolphins started killing off large portions of the shark and the whale population in the Pacific. Then in 1998, over 200,000 people across the globe committed suicide within 10 minutes of each other for no apparent reason. People called it the awakening now, because that was when the world governments and media began admitting that there was an ongoing major problem they didn't know how to solve. Not Scott told me with a laugh that it wasn't like the world was ending. Sometimes it sure felt like it. After the awakening, a lot of fanatics started popping up. Religious zealots, doomsday preppers, militant groups itching for a fight. He said those groups caused disorder and could be dangerous to be around, but mostly they were just scared people looking for a reason. For the most part, civilization was still struggling. As time went on, the strange became the new normal. Then people started going outside. Not the normal scared, I'm going to wear a bulletproof vest to the grocery store insane, but more the I'm going to eat the bus driver's face insane. He said that actually happened to him as he was riding a bus. The turning crazy didn't happen in the last years, but in the last 5 years it was building. There were more random acts of extreme violence. A teacher chopping up her 3rd grade class. A little boy stabbing out his father's eyes while he slept. But there were more subtle versions of it too. People would develop strange obsessions or fetishes. They'd become paranoid or have wild mood swings for no apparent reason. Not Scott said that most days at work, there would be at least 1 or 2 people crying or laughing uncontrollably at random times throughout the day.
I think he's got to snap to it sometime, right?
Well, he killed Christine, so I'd imagine he already has.
Well, I meant to our new Christine. There's got to be something that is gonna, I don't know. I'm just wondering, what kind of sadistic thing? Well, because I'm wondering if he's gonna lie and be like, oh, she tried freaking out on me and she did this or that, or she's just like, oh, she was self-possessed and I killed her.
Or he thought he had tears in his eyes when he told me at last. I felt my heart break when he said,
it's happened to me already. I've done terrible things. Just want to thank you, your Scott. I've done much worse than that. I used to not be like this.
I reached forward and took his hand.
I can't imagine what you've been through. I'm not saying you can fix everything, but you can make it better. Let me go back. You come too. If this world is what is making you do these bad things, maybe you'll be better away from it.
Not Scott pulled his hand away, his face hardening.
I should have expected this kind of cozening from you. You're not as different as I'd hoped.
Standing up, he wiped his eyes with the palms of his hands, and as he stared off, his expression hurt.
You aren't leaving, and there's no real hope for me either beyond embracing this world as is. Letting it reshape me so I can survive it. Let's get to accepting reality too. It's a hard world and it's gonna get harder.
After that, he talked to me a lot less. Though some nights he would sit with me for a while, saying very little but seeming to not want to be alone. Other nights he would seem different, a dark look on his face more akin to when I first saw him upon waking. Those nights I just tried to stay inconspicuous and small. He didn't tell me much more about the world outside, other than that there were worse problems now than just people going crazy. And I could hear signs of the chaos outside. Gunshots, screaming, the orange glow of distant fires were a regular part of life. I asked about what had happened to the building, and he said a television helicopter had crashed into it a couple of years back, taking out most of the top 3 floors. It only put the small hole in non-Scott's ceiling and caused minimal structural damage to the rest of the building. Brandon said they negotiated their way around and decided to look at it like a scout and the days moved on. I need to stress again that after he got in here, he never hurt me. He was genuinely quiet. He didn't force himself or even come on sexually. Things we talked about, they said combine that with the fact that in a lot of ways, not Scott was Scott. It made it easier to describe. I see that peppered into our conversations were questions that would prompt me to talk about my Scott, to talk about my world. I told him stories of my parents, or my 9th birthday, or my college major. I was giving him information and insight into a place he was desperate to learn more about. He was smart about it, subtle, but over time, I was handing him everything he wanted. I let myself forget I wasn't dealing with my Scott, but just afflicted with some strange mental illness. I was dealing with a stranger. I remembered that fact when he brought her in, screaming and crying, snot pouring from her nose as he dragged her by the arm across the living room and into the bedroom. He tried to shut the door back when they entered, but in her flailing, she kicked it and swung back open as he brought the knife down across her stomach. As blood welled out of the wound, she raised her head and raised my mind. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old.
God damn. Rough.
Not Scott followed her gaze and saw the door was open.
I'm sorry you saw this, Christine. I'm just doing what's necessary to survive. Donna left the key to your car in the closet.
It was more just to make myself feel better and to vent my frustration. For the 100th time, I strained at my collar and tugged at my chain, but he had secured both well. I finally gave up, my throat hoarse and my body exhausted. Even amidst my struggling and thrashing about, I had noticed that the bedroom had fallen silent. As I lay there panting, I strained to hear any sound. There was nothing for several minutes, then a series of small scuffling noises followed by the sound of something being drug. Silence again. I debated yelling, but I knew it was too late for the girl, so I stayed quiet. The door suddenly burst open, and I heard a scream. Scott was standing there, his face and clothes smeared with blood. He was squinting and seemed unsteady on his feet. He saw me.
Christine?
So that was leading up to the moment where not Scott pulled Scott. So now they've switched places. And he had to kill that 8-year-old girl because he needs blood to...
He had to like cut her. An excessive amount of blood, I'm guessing, to like actually paint the doorway.
To paint it open. Whew, this story, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. It is rough, admittedly, but I'm enjoying it.
It's much more graphic than I wrote myself a letter. You know, I did not expect this to be.
I wrote myself a letter and I got a response.
Yeah,
the 8-year-old had the blood pour from her body
exactly.
as the knife dragged. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna wear this dog collar, and I'm gonna fucking bite my own fingers off.
I'm so glad it did not go a sexual route, because that's 100% what I was expecting when he put her in a collar and he's talking about weird fetishes, and that it didn't do that. So you know what? I'm happy. If the 8-year-old's gotta die, they gotta die. But as long as it doesn't become some weird sex thing, whatever.
Part 4 or 5. We're moving right along.
Part 4, let's go. Okay, so my assumption is maybe this is back to our section when we got pulled.
Yeah, I think it's time to go back to Scott. Or at least I hope it is.
I woke to hands around my throat, choking off my air as I saw my relaxed to sleep and opened my eyes to see a face eerily similar to mine staring down at me. The other Scott was straddling me, bearing down hard as I started trying to flail and get free. His arms prevented me from getting a good hit in on his head, so I tried punching him in the sides. He grunted at each impact, but was unmoved. I tried to make eye contact, mouthed something to him, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. He seemed to be avoiding them, in fact. Just stared at his hands around my throat, lips skinned back from his teeth in some kind of snarl or grimace below eyes, looked almost sorrowful. This somehow scared me even worse. I started fighting back harder, trying to buck him off while slamming an elbow into his arm, hoping to break his grip. But he was too strong, and I could already feel myself slipping back into the icier waters of unconsciousness. As I faded out, I had time to worry if my shoes were still on and to hear him say he was sorry. When I woke next, I was face down on the floor, the left side of my head wet with some kind of sleep. Opened them. I was in a version of my bedroom, but I couldn't tell it was mine. Looking slowly, I breath as I sat up. The room was empty, the door was shut, and I had to fight the urge to rush out and search for myself. I needed to be smart with my time. With revulsion, I noticed my hand was wet with blood from where I'd wiped my head. My entire side was soaked in it, in fact, as was the floor. I felt a lurch of fear in my stomach. He had killed Christine before he came back across to get me, and I tried to hold it at bay as I studied the rest of the room. Nothing that noteworthy other than that he had 5 mirrors hanging in different spots in the room, all of which were dark. I looked at the corner of the ceiling above the bed and breathed a sigh of relief when I saw no mirror there. To the wall, I saw that he had stripped away the paper he used to make the doorway on this side. I guessed he had replicated it on the other side so it would stay open while I destroyed this side. But aside from the paper, I still had no real idea how it was done. Fresh blood was part of it. Again, I had a thrill of fear for Christine. This time I could have get closer. Standing up stiffly, I went to the door and yanked it open. The woman screamed, and as I looked across the dimly lit living room, I saw it was Christine. She looked terrified. She was chained to the wall by some kind of collar, but she was alive.
Christine?
She blinked, her mouth slowly closing as she took me in. After a moment, she started to stand, her face shifting between fear and hopefulness.
Scott? Is that really you?
I wanted to run to her, but I could tell she was freaked out, so I approached slowly.
It's me, baby. Did he hurt you? Are you okay?
Her face crumpled as she ran to me, almost knocking me over with the force of her embrace.
Thank God, oh God, oh God, oh God.
I stayed quiet and hugged her back. After a minute, she pulled back, her expression serious and more composed.
Is he gone?
I nodded.
I think so. He jumped me when I was asleep and drugged me here. I was unconscious, but I didn't see any sign of him when I woke up. He didn't come back out of the room, did he?
She shook her head.
Then he must be over in our world. The fucker wanted to take my life, and now he has.
I caught myself and smiled sadly at her.
It'll be okay. We'll figure things out.
I reached out to stroke her hair, but she pulled back.
I'm sorry, Scott. I'm so happy to see you, but he looks so much like you, and I've been stuck here for 2 weeks with him. It's gonna take me a bit to readjust, that's all.
She pulled herself back, holding her elbows as he smiled apologetically.
I'm okay. What about you?
I turned away to take in the living room.
I'm fine. She choked me out, but I'm okay. I'm in a sore throat. I'm so sorry for this. I know this is all insane and out of control, but it's still a version of me that's doing it.
One aspect of the details of harder on her.
I can't
Talk
still recharge.
I know he's crazy, and I hope you know I'm not anything like him.
Christine reached out and touched my arm.
Hey, I know that. You're not him, and I know you're not like him. And honestly, I'm so sorry for him at times. I haven't seen it, but from what I can tell, what he's told me about it, this place is really fucked up. Dangerous fucked up. He said people are going crazy here, and I think that's part of his problem too.
She pulled her arm back, her voice trembling slightly.
Do you know how to get us back?
I shook my head as I turned away again, ashamed to look at her any longer.
I've been trying to figure it out ever since you were taken, but I don't know yet. I communicated with him through that stationery my aunt gave me. He did the same thing with something an uncle on his side gave him. That paper, the two combined together, is how he makes the doorways. But no matter what I do, nothing seems to work.
Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Christine's face fall with despair. I pointed into the bedroom and went on.
There's blood in there. A lot of it. And there was blood in my bedroom when you were taken too. I was afraid it was yours. But it wasn't, was it? That's what I was thinking. The blood has to be a part of it then. Did you see how he did it?
Again, the strange pause, and then she gave a quick nod.
I saw him draw the shape of a door in blood. Inside the paper outline, like you talked about. Is the paper still there?
She looked past me into the bedroom.
Did he take it when he left?
Finally, I had some good news.
He did, but I have more. When I realized I might not figure out how to get across on my own, I started hoping he would come back for me. I took to sleep with my shoes on every night, and I kept the strips of paper I had saved tucked into the bottoms of them. If we can figure out how to create the doorway, I have the paper to do it.
That was smart of him.
That's very
actually,
smart.
like, that was incredibly well thought out. I wouldn't have thought
He's
to
like,
do
the
that.
dude's
I'd
probably gonna
just be stuck
come.
there.
The dude's probably gonna come at some random time and get me.
He's got the upper game. I'm gonna get switched because he threatened that. I need to prepare for it. Yeah. Her expression brightened for the first time, and she grabbed my hand, pulling me into the bedroom.
Try it. Maybe it'll work.
I took the strips of paper from her. For the next few minutes, we pasted them carefully in an alternating pattern of cream and blue. As far as I could tell, it was close to exactly how he had them arranged when he took Christine. Then, dipping a pencil eraser in the thickening blood on the floor, trace the outline.
That's still recharging.
I didn't. After a couple of minutes of waiting, I tried again. No change. Suddenly, she pushed past me, fingers dripping with blood. She frantically traced and retraced the outline over and over, but to no avail. Screaming, she punched the wall and fell back. I realized that her hand wasn't covered with blood from the floor. It was bleeding itself.
What happened? How did your hand get hurt?
I started to reach out to her, but her dark look stopped me.
I bit it just now. I thought maybe it needed fresher blood or something, other than that fucking eraser wiping it on the wall. I don't know. Not Christine.
She sighed deeply, some hand control.
I'm sorry. I know this isn't my fault, but we need to get out of here. Fuck. This thing's still on. You said the key is in the closet. I can't reach it.
I swallowed and nodded, jumping up to check the closet. Inside I found a small assortment of clothes, a couple of pairs of shoes, but the rest of the closet was devoted to books. They were stacked on a shelf at the top in a neat pattern. Most of them looked to be fantasy or science fiction, many by authors I had never heard of, few by authors who had never written those particular books in my world. On top of the closest book stack was a key. After Christine was free, we searched the apartment over for any clues on how to reopen the door. 30 minutes later, we were back in the room. Christine was staring at the floor forlornly while I tried to figure out something to say.
Look, it'll work out. We'll figure it out. But it may take some time.
Her expression didn't change, and I went on.
I need to go out and get us some supplies. Figure out if this place is even anything like he said it was. Maybe it's not half bad and he's just a crazy liar.
I knew the unspoken subtext of what I was saying was that hopefully it would be nice because we might be stuck here, but I couldn't quite bear to say it. Instead, the idea of being marooned in this place just hung between us like some kind of noxious cloud, slowly killing the little hope we had left. As I was thinking this, I realized Christine was on her feet.
You're right. Let's go and see what this place is even like.
I thought about protesting, asking that she stay at the apartment in case the outside world was dangerous, but I could tell she was determined to go, and it would be good if there were two of us. Between us, we managed to find a pair of long kitchen knives and a flashlight, along with a light jacket with pockets I could store the items in while we traveled. And we were off. Stepping out of the apartment, the ill repair of the hallway matched the hole in the ceiling of the apartment. The only thing in sight that looked clean or well-maintained was the elevator, the brass of which carried a mirror-like sheen. I stopped and looked at the reflection there, but saw nothing. Her questioning look, I explained my encounter in the hallway to Christine. She said Not Scott, she called him, had told her some about mirrors, but not a lot. She asked how I'd been able to see him back in the reflection on the elevator, and I realized I didn't know. But by then, we were pushing out of the downstairs outside door. When we stepped out, the first thing that struck me was how quiet the city was. Still. It was still early, but in our world, there would already be people out of cars and bustling along the narrow lane to the street that ran in front of the apartment building. There would be sounds of nature mixed in as well, even if it was just the occasional bird song or dog bark. Here, there were a handful of cars driving down the street, and the people driving them seemed to either be staring straight ahead, so their gazes were welded to the road in front of them, or constantly looking in every direction, seemingly terrified of some surprise attack. It's hard to say which was the better idea. We turned to the left and made our way down to what would be a corner grocery store in our world. Along the way, we passed only a couple of people, and were both walking determinedly on the far sidewalk. They shot us wary glances, but that was all. My attempt at waving hello to the second person was ignored. At the end of the block, we found that Patterson's grocery store was now Patterson's package shop. But when we entered, we found that aside from a large volume of alcohol, the place still sold various food and drinks. Sticking close to each other, we selected a small variety of items and headed towards the front. Money didn't seem to be an issue for the moment, as Not Scott had left a small stack of bills and a debit card with a pin taped to it sitting on the kitchen counter. The bills were red and reminded me of Monopoly money, but when I handed the cashier a $100 bill, he took it without complaint and gave me a handful of strange change in return, including another RFK nickel. On the way out, we were almost run over by a large teenage boy barreling into the store past us. As he cleared the threshold, he started yelling about how he needed
Fresh tickets for my mom. Get them up for her, you cozening fucker.
I propelled Christine out onto the sidewalk, but not before I heard the cashier scream back that the boy's mother had been dead for 3 years. We exchanged a look, and I debated suggesting we head back to the apartment, but Christine was already opening a bottle of water and cutting across the street. There was starting to be more traffic now, but the flow of people was still anemic. I made the comment that this was what the world would be like after some plague in a movie where half the people had been wiped out. Christina shot me a glance, her face hard.
I don't know if that's what's far from the truth.
She pointed ahead to Bristow Park, which was actually called the same thing here as well.
Let's go in there and see if there are any people out.
Our version of Bristow Park was always bustling with people in the morning. On the weekends, it would be families and casual games of football or frisbee, but even the weekday saw a steady stream of joggers, dog walkers, and miscellaneous others. At first, we thought this version of the park was largely empty, but then Christine heard singing. The outer pass of the park followed cultivated hedges and trees, curving and winding along the park perimeter with inlets into the more central areas every 100 yards or so. Even when you start down one of those inner paths, it takes more than a few steps before the large open spaces at the center of the park are revealed. As we were walking along the outer path, Christine suddenly cut onto one of the inner paths, murmuring that she heard music. I followed, but at first, I heard nothing. It was only when we were stepping onto the dying grass of the central field that I heard the faint singing or chanting that was coming from the throng of people clustered around the enormous bonfire in the distance. So I'm no expert in this world, right? But I would say don't.
No, sir. I would say, no thanks.
People here are insane. They kill others sporadically. And then you hear chanting at a bonfire in the park.
It's cool. Come on, let's go. It's gonna be a great time.
Hey, it's a campfire. Christine was walking towards the group quickly, and after a few more paces, I grabbed her arm and stopped. She turned, her eyes fierce, and her voice low and trembling when she spoke.
What are they doing? Do you see that?
I'd been more focused on Christine as we had drawn near, but as I looked again, I saw exactly what they were doing. The bonfire was not really a bonfire. It was a 20-foot metal frame in the shape of an X. The lower half squatter and much thicker than the top. Inside the frame, wood had been carefully inserted throughout and set ablaze. That was all very strange, but I only noted it in a perfunctory way as I watched the man catching fire. The man had been stripped naked and chained at each wrist. The lengthy metal bindings trailing off into the crowd on each side of the burning X. The man was in the middle between the burning effigy's legs. The top of the white hot metal only inches from his head. The air around him shimmered with the heat, his skin blackening and peeling off as he was jerked back and forth from one side of the X to the other at the whims of the crowd pulling the chains. We were still 50 yards away, but when a breeze shifted direction, I could smell the pungently sweet smell of his flesh cooking, even as I heard him scream. I was about to start pulling Christine away when I stopped, my skin growing cold. The man wasn't screaming. He was laughing. Man.
Well, goddamn.
What a crazy visual. It's a guy being
Also,
burnt on a giant X, but the crowd gets to pull him from one side to the other.
Christine's been here for 2 weeks. How do we know she's not gonna start getting all fucking screwy?
That's what I had that thought. My
You know what I
other
mean?
thought was that maybe at some point, maybe this isn't his Christine. This could be other Christine. She could not be dead. But I don't trust Christine fully.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm, because he still has not even seen his own Christine in the real world. Like, I don't know. There's a lot going on.
There's a bunch of like unknowns going on. Yeah. This world's insane though. Like just a few people walking around. There's like a public burning in the park.
Yeah, no shit.
I tugged weakly at Christine and she glanced at me. Her eyes went wide. I began to back away slowly, and I was terrified at any moment we would be noticed. But the crowd was transfixed. Even when the man stopped laughing, the slug kept him along the way as he had some kind of We edged our way back to the pavilion of the floor. And my last stop before we headed back to the path and out. I saw the cooked meat of the man begin to pull apart as the mob lifted into it. Gasping at his skin. That's a great. I like that. That's such a brutal description. That's awesome.
Fucking gross, yeah.
The wet gasping of his skin as it ruptured, the greasy crack of weaker bones. Ugh. Like the way you'd imagine like a burnt turkey, like when you pull it apart.
Yeah, it's like, you know, like the human, like a popping open, like the water kind of juicing out of it and stuff. Ugh.
Yeah, We exited the park, wasted no time returning to the apartment. I could feel Christine's terror and knew my own matched it, but I felt no closer to an answer than I had before. We didn't talk about what we had seen, but Christine did take my hand and sit silently with me for a while. I could tell we were both starting to slip into shock or some despondent form of madness. We had to do something. Getting up, I started searching the apartment again for anything we might have missed. That's when I found a cream-colored envelope on the bedroom desk. I opened it and read it again, my heart pounding. I gave it to Christine. She studied it for a long time before looking up at me. She was about to speak, but I couldn't hold it any longer and blurted out.
Did he rape you?
Well, gosh, Scott.
Well, goddamn. I'm telling you,
Calm
good
down.
Lord.
Like, maybe now's not the time to talk about these things.
Well,
Maybe so I imagine the cream-colored envelope is the one that we read in part 2, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because it hyperlinks to part 2. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So they read that entire one, and then he says, I opened it, read it, my heart pounding, gave it to Christine. And he's like, did you do it? Scott's face was worried, hurt and scared. So I imagine this is now Christine.
Yep.
Scott's face was worried, hurt and scared at all the same time as he asked, and I could feel myself loving him and hating him for asking the question. I do like this position switch. It does play good. I knew he was concerned for my well-being, that he loved me, and I knew that he felt guilty because of who had taken me, but there was still something so selfish in him asking, so childish in him needing to be comforted. If I had been raped, this is a crazy conversation, or even better, him hoping I could reassure him that whatever brutalities I'd endured at not Scott's hands weren't as bad as all that, so he could start pretending this wasn't his fault. Because it was his fault. I saw that now. Not necessarily because it was an alternative version of him, but because he had talked to Not Scott, responded to him, told him about me. I was trying not to be angry with him, but I was so hurt and scared, and we had to get out of this place. Okay, I think she's starting to slip too. I think also you can.
I don't know if it's corrupting. I think you can be. I don't think that's totally.
You think
egregious
she's like
to
a
think
fitting
about.
level of mad? I will say it is a fitting level of mad after he asked that question.
Well, it's like, imagine, I mean, because it's a parallel version of you, right? But imagine like a stranger, you're gassing up your wife to some guy that you've never heard before, and then she gets it's like she gets kidnapped or whatever.
Yeah,
to me, I'm like, I think that there's also something too about, I think that it's a selfish play. I don't think that he's like a horrible person or anything, but I can understand the frustration, I guess, from where she's coming from.
Yeah. I had already been toying with the idea of lying to Scott after reading Not Scott's letter. I had no idea why Not Scott had lied about raping me. Did he say that in the letter? Was there a line about that?
I don't remember him saying anything like that. I just remember the crying line. Remember the crying that suggested it?
Oh, was there a line about that?
Yeah.
Christine, I just want to say I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, I assume there is if they're talking about that now. Yeah.
That's still recharging.
I'd already been toying with the idea of lying to Scott after reading Not Scott's letter. I had no idea why Not Scott had lied about it, whether it was due to his insanity, natural cruelty, or just to make Scott hate him. Drive Scott's guilt and his anger long enough to do what had to be done. It was a blessing. And if Scott's sad face and worried tone made it easier to tell the lie, so be it. I could ask for forgiveness when we weren't in hell anymore.
So he didn't do it. He lied about it.
No, he didn't. He didn't. Yeah, he lied about it, but she's about to lie too.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe she is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Because that's insane, right?
That's because she's saying like if it
'cause
motivates him to get us out of here. Like
Jesus.
dang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were right. We were right about that. Okay, so she says here. She says, yes, he did. He started the second day, and it got worse as the days went on. More extreme. Wow.
Whoa. I was gonna try and fake tears, but I found there was no need. After everything, after what we had just witnessed, tears were going to come easily for some time.
Okay, this is fucked. That's
That's insane. That is insane to be like, I know what will motivate him. I mean, he also shouldn't have asked it, but that doesn't justify whatever. I saw Scott's face darken as his fist balled at his sides. That's the response I was hoping for. I waited a moment for him to stew, and then I went
That I lied before.
I do know a bit more about how to make the door work.
What are you doing?
Not Scott killed a little girl.
Why did it?
He used her blood to open the door.
Why?
Some of that was guesswork on my part, but I'd seen enough to make it a
I
little guess.
don't have a target.
Scott's eyes widened some, but he still looked hard and determined.
And that's what we'll do. I'll find someone and take blood from them.
I winced and he stopped.
What is it? What's wrong?
He licked my lips. Asked for forgiveness when he wanted to.
Or Scott, not Scott, told me that it had to be from a child and the blood only worked as they were dying. I didn't want to tell you because it's so horrible. But I don't think there's any other way to get it. But I don't think there's any way to get us home. She's listen, I think my girl Christine's I think she's slipping mentally.
Well, I don't know, because she's saying, as we're going to the Ardenelle, because she's saying, like, we have to mimic exactly what Scott did.
Yeah, no, I
Otherwise-
understand the rationalization, but it's an interesting way to start showing the deconstruction,
The mind,
like the mind
yeah.
evolving, basically.
Whew. This too was a lie, of course, as Scott had never told me any such thing. But it made sense. Leftover blood of the girl hadn't worked, and neither had my own fresh blood. So we needed to replicate what Scott had done as closely as possible, as soon as possible. We didn't have time for Scott to moralize, trying to think up humane alternatives. At the edge, his emotions were given him with time
Still
and
recharging.
equivocation.
I can't.
No,
We have to get out of here. I have to make this right and get you out of here. If I have to do something horrible to do that, that'll be on me.
his eyes were glimmering, but his voice didn't falter.
We'll go find someone right now so we can get done with it.
I reached out and squeezed his hand.
I'll help.
Man.
When end of part 4, into part 5. So see, okay, so we're starting to get the idea of, at least from how I read it, I think me on the same page as Christine is kind of, I think that the world is starting to affect her in whatever way. But even in some kind of way, there's desperation happening with Scott, where it's bordering to me on desperation, but there also is hints of like, is he slowly kind of getting there too?
Yeah, I can't tell if it's like the world's doing that to them or their desperation's doing it, and ergo the world does it to them, or what. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure the specifics, but they're not doing too hot, I would argue. Man, that's rough. Like, and he said it had to be a little girl. Whew. All right, well, ready for part 5?
Final part, let's get it.
Final part. I woke to something looking at us. Reached out short, soft, Trixie somehow made it onto the bed. So this is now
That
Yeah, not
spell
Scott.
isn't
Yeah.
ready.
opening my eyes, I saw his happy, smushed face as he gave me another grab. The girl at the pet store had said he was tall and charging. From the moment I saw him, I knew he was the weirdest and cutest thing I'd ever seen. I'd always been fascinated by dogs growing up, only in part because of Dad's stories about Rex, but I had never seen a dog like this in any of the old pictures. An hour later, I had him home, getting his bed and food ready while he explored the apartment with a manic, bouncy determination. Ruffling his fur, I pondered trying to go back to sleep, but I knew it was a lost cause. In the 5 days since I wrote my last letter to the other Scott, I've been having more and more trouble sleeping. A lot of guilt for what I had done to him and Christine. The longer I was out of that place, the more I felt it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I feel like the more he's in this world, the more less insane and less violent he's going to
The
feel.
more human he gets. Yeah. Living in that other world, my old world, I come to feel like I was when I first started noticing the change in myself a couple of years back. I was worried, but also strangely intrigued.
Still
It
recharging.
was like I was standing at the edge of some newly formed world, and each day I went into it a little deeper, a little more frequently.
Still recharging.
Over time, the light from outside didn't penetrate the darkness nearly as well, and I would get lost in the black. I would blindly traverse jagged rocks as unseen things crept around me, and when I finally found my way back out, I would swear it was the time that I would go near the thing, but then I would go back in. That's the funny thing about madness. Makes you feel like you have a choice, like the options you pick are reasonable or justified, and when you look back in horror at what you've done, you feel completely responsible for everything. And I am. I'm not trying to make excuses or pawn off all that I've done on whatever corruption is slowly eating that other world. I earned this guilt. I'm very That's part of why I love Trixie so much. Besides from being sweet, and awesome, also she's a despicable piece of shit. For the 1000th time in the last few days, I look at the wall next to the desk. I both fear and hope to see it all most of the time. I'm terrified of it. If I ever make it through, I'm sure your brother Scott and Christine would either try to kill me or send me back. At first, my response to that was that I would just kill them. Now, I'm not so sure. Maybe we can all survive in this world. I can take Trixie and move away somewhere, and in time, they can forget that I even exist. I know I'm still crazy, but at least now I can recognize it. I do feel like I'm out of the cave and in the sunlight more every day, and I love this world so much. I figured out how to work Scott's cell phone after an hour or so on the second day I was here. Most people don't have cell phones where I come from because they're so unreliable. One of the side effects when things started changing for the worse a few years back was that most wireless transmissions stopped working with any regularity. It's like sunspots or a solar flare, but all of the time. But I did have a cell phone years ago, just not one of these fancy touchscreen things. Poked around in it until I figured out where the other Scott worked, and then I called in sick. I needed time to get acclimated, but I also needed money, so the following day I gave a sad Trixie a hug and headed in. The job was at a company that made greeting cards, oddly enough. Greeting cards weren't much of a thing anymore where I was from, but apparently other Scott wrote them for a living. The first couple of days were rough. I could tell by the odd looks I got from some of my coworkers that I wasn't producing the same kind of material they were expecting from Scott, so I went through all of his old work to get a feel for it. Most of it was saccharine and idiotic, but there were some good ideas in there too. Some of them I felt like I could see other Scott in, and it made me know him more, see him more as a person rather than just an obstacle. Maybe that was just my crazy starting to wear off and my guilt starting to kick in. Either way, it didn't stop me from loving going to work. Living in that old world, even when I was deep in the cave, it felt like everyone you met was a high voltage power line just humming with dark impulses and brimming with potential for violence. Not everyone was, of course, and I certainly fell into that camp myself, but none of that made the constant tension of daily life any easier to bear. Here, people aren't always happy or nice, but they are normal. The way I remember being when I was younger. Yesterday, I just sat at my desk, trying to think up a way to say happy birthday wasn't overly off-putting or strange. I marveled at the sounds around me. People gossiping, eating donuts, talking about what they are doing for their vacation in 2 weeks or about their daughter's wedding last month. Even the work-related stuff was done in such a mundane and simple manner that it felt surreal.
Hey there.
Much as I enjoy it, though, by the end of that day, I have to get home and be alone. Being around people too long, even normal people that probably won't suddenly start screaming or trying to kill you, it's hard for me. I'm not used to that anymore, and I may never be again. I don't know. But I already have more in this world than I ever thought I'd have again. New movies. I've been spending a lot of time when I'm at home watching movies. They made movies out of Tolkien's The Red Book of Westmarch trilogy over here, called The Lord of the Rings, which is a dumb name, but the movies are great.
It's a great name, Dick.
hey, watch it! Don't you talk about Tolkien that way!
Come on, it's fucking Tolkien, man!
My favorite has to be Gollum. I read they did him with computer graphics, which is amazing and more advanced than anything I've seen in my world. I even named Trixie after him, albeit indirectly. He looks a little bit like a bug-eyed Gollum anyway. He's asleep on my lap as I write this out. As stupid as this sounds, I think he's part of the reason I'm having so much trouble with what I did. I love the little guy. It's the first time I've loved something since my Christine. Just thinking about her, what we did to each other as it got bad, I will always hate myself for that. The question is, how much sin do I want to add on top? How much more do I want to hate myself? I decided to write this all out as a way of working through all of these thoughts and feelings. Although, as though I was writing it to other Scott, but with no intention of actually sending it. But I'm coming to realize I should send it to him. Not just this either, but instructions on how to get back or a message on setting up a time when I can open the door on this side if he's not up to doing it on his. Better wait to send the extra paper until I know that what he wants to do. And I hope I'm not too late for either of them. And yet, I still hear a voice calling from that deep, dark cave. That voice says
Mount
I have to look out for
Reserve.
myself.
You mean what everybody's
they will
going
kill
there
me
for
or
is Hard
force me
Reserve?
back if I help them. I know that I can't trust that
No
voice,
soft
but I also
reserves.
can't shake the feeling that it is part of what has kept me alive as my own world turned into some kind of hell. I need to think about this. I don't want to lose this life, but I'm not sure it won't be poisoned if I leave them condemned to that terrible place. Trixie just woke up and wants to go outside. I think I'm going to take him for a long walk and see about sending a letter.
No way.
Now we switch back to R. Scott. Abducting a child isn't as easy as you might think.
The fucking parallel there is so crazy.
I think I'm gonna take my little pug's Trixie on a walk.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you guys later.
My little pug Golem out for a walk. Maybe I'll send this letter. Getting a kid isn't as easy as you think it may.
This is a really fun story.
Man,
there's
I'm
been
having a
heavy
great
themes
time.
for sure. But this is fun. This is good, especially in this place. There are fewer people for one thing, and everyone is much more guarded, especially with their children. The first few days me and Christine went out, we only saw a couple of children at all. We had a plan of only going out for 2 hours at a time in different directions. We wanted to make sure that if we saw something like what happened in the park, we could get back to the apartment relatively quickly, and this way we were exploring different potential places every time we went. We saw a number of things in those days. Much of it was relatively mild, people talking to themselves or arguing loudly, acting erratic or strangely twitching and emotional. Saw a couple of fights. One guy ran out into the street and started stabbing a woman who was just quietly making her way along the crosswalk. The most troubling thing was very brief, and I don't think Christine saw it. Speaking of fights, that was you I was with in New Orleans, and we watched a fist fight on in Bourbon Street, right?
Yeah,
No, we were walking out of that restaurant. It was after the show. And there were the two guys rolling around in the street on Bourbon Street. And the cop broke it up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
900 gear score minimum.
Yeah, he's like yelling.
Good times.
Fucking swing at me!
Oh.
Yeah, they were like tussling back and forth. Yeah, it was
Well,
pretty-
remember I remember
good
because also shout out those guys because they're just like they came up to me and they're like, dude, I love your videos, and then like I'm not even joking, we went into the restaurant and then I like looked out the window and yeah, that same guy was the guy like rolling on the ground with another dude.
Didn't
So,
we
you know.
go out after the fight and like after he was talking to the
I'm out
cop
of
and he
range.
looks over and he's like, "Can I get a picture with you?"
I don't remember all that. All I know is I was just like, well, goddamn, dude. I'm like, these young bucks. Not anymore. Also, that's just. I'm like, Bourbon Street is just such a. The French Quarters. That's just a place. I'm like, that. It has to be its own layer of hell. I mean, it's just nothing but alcohol
I don't
and
think
everything.
we've ever talked about me getting you stuck there till midnight.
on another time, if it was a David King kind of story, I would keep it. I'd love to direct, but I'm so hyped.
Yeah, all right, let's finish the story. Yeah. We were walking south that day, debating if we should push out further than normal in the hopes we could reach a school that was supposed to be a few blocks away. It's a big risk to take a child from school, particularly when we had to go back all that way on foot with them in tow, but every day we were getting more desperate. And the more time we spent here seeing this place, the more the question of should we do it faded away as the question of how we do it became more and more pressing. As we talked, I happened to glance into an alley we were passing. Saw a woman and a child of about 10 hunched over a man who lay slumped against a dumpster. At first, I thought they were leaning down checking on him, but then the little boy turned and looked at me with deep-set green eyes, twinkled with madness. His mouth was covered in blood, bits of flesh, from where they were eating the man. As my mouth fell open, he smiled at me and licked his lips. I try not to lose my stride so as not to alert Christine, and the last glimpse I saw was the woman's hand on the boy's shoulder. May have been my fear or a trick of the shadows, but I swear I saw her hand going into him slowly.
Ooh.
Oh, I swear I saw her hand going into him slowly, as though they were running together like pink candle wax. So it's like they're like morphing into each other. That's a lot better than what I thought. I told Christine we should keep going. Decided in the back of my mind we should be taking a different route back to the apartment. Kept looking over my shoulder, but to my relief, I saw no sign we were being followed.
Was that the first uncanny thing? Is that, or like, I guess, otherworldly thing that we've seen? Is like people.
That is the second mention, because earlier, when Scott was talking about his dad, he said my dad was attacked by a thing, some presence. He wouldn't tell her what it was.
But this is the first time that we've actually had someone be like, I'm seeing it with my own eyes.
Yes, yeah. There's like some supernatural thing.
Yeah,
going
because
on.
there's been hints of stuff, but this
Yeah.
is the first time we've actually heard someone be like, "Oh, this is like bodies morphing together."
It's
or
like
something.
it's like a supernatural presence has corrupted this world.
Yeah.
It's just kind of rotted over it.
It's giving the parallels with this in the VHS short. It's the parallels are
You
there.
know, yeah. It actually is very close.
I'd be so curious to see if that was at all inspired by this.
What was the story written?
This was 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
And I wanna say
that
that-
VHS was more recent, right? But that was a Spanish director, right? He was Spanish,
yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
It was Let me see, because the show.
I remember hearing an interview with, James A. Janice talked about it on Dead Meat, that he said he just used a lot of the satanic imagery because he thought it was cool. He thought it looked creepy. He was
Oh, I
like, no,
see.
it's not actually Satanism. I just think it's like an evil aesthetic.
Yeah, Parallel Monsters is what the short is. Yeah, I don't know. It's just that, which
Very similar.
there's horror visuals and stuff, but still, it was just one of those things. I keep coming back to it, just like the doorway and all that kind of stuff. It is what it is.
Yeah. There's supernatural stuff happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the day our luck changed. A mile down the road, we found an elementary school. It already let out for the day, but the next day we were back bright and early. After watching most of the morning, we had a plan. Most of the children came in by school bus or were dropped off by parents. There were a handful that walked there in the morning. Assuming that was true in the afternoon as well, we would just wait for a small child who was walking alone, preferably a girl since that's what Not Scott had used. And that would be that. It was terrible, and I still hated the idea of doing it, but it had to be done. I had to try and make all of this right, even though I had to do some wrong to do it. Do some wrong is a very subtle way to describe butchering a child.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that's also. I like that.
That's part of it. That's part of it. That they're
I like that
justifying it. Yeah.
Exactly. I like that here of him just being like, sometimes you have to. It's like a fucking. He's like acting like a Robin Hood moment, steal from the rich or whatever, that kind of vibe. That's
You got to clock in. I have the greater good in mind,
justifiable evil that I have to do.
Yeah. And I told myself that these children had no real future other than a short life filled with pain and fear. I couldn't quite convince myself that killing one of them was a mercy, but it did take the edge off my guilt at least. School let out, and it soon became clear who we were following. While many of the children who were walking had left in pairs or groups, there was one little girl who had headed off on her own immediately, as though she couldn't wait to be away from all the laughing and shoving and joking around the rest of the children were doing as they got picked up or struck out on foot.
Man.
She was overweight, with long black hair that was stringy and unkempt. Clothes were clearly old and dirty in spots. And as she walked, I could see that the sole was starting to separate on the back of one of her red sneakers. This is so sad, dude. Oh, man. Oh, she looked sad and unloved, and I had to fight the urge to tell Christine that this was a mistake. But when I looked at her, all I saw was the grim, almost manic determination I had been since we had started this days before. She was past any mercy or equivocation at this point, and how could I blame her, given all she had been through? So we followed the child. Man, this is brutal. Like, man, of just a sad girl. So we followed the child until she started down a route different than what would lead in the apartment's direction. At which point we approached her and told her she needed to come with us. She asked why, and we gave our pre-planned generic response of,
A member of your family has been hurt. We were told to get you. We don't have all the details yet.
This is so messed up because that's like the classic like child predator thing, right?
No,
Like
yeah,
every kid,
100%.
Every child predator
Yeah.
PSA is like, if someone tells you that mommy or daddy got hurt, use the code word. Like, It was vague and lame, but we hoped it would be enough to at least get her down the road a mile or two before she started asking more questions. She seemed to weigh our words, considering, and I could tell she didn't really believe us for any of a dozen good reasons. Still, to my surprise, she just shrugged with a resigned look on her face.
Okay, I'll go.
It occurred to me that children were likely going crazy in this place, just like the adults, and given what I thought I had seen in the alley, my appreciation for how potentially dangerous this little girl might be was exponentially greater. But as we walked, she didn't try to attack us or even complain. She moved along docilely, and after a couple miles, I began wondering what her life must be like that she was okay with being abducted. Pushed the thought away. Less I thought of her as a person, as a sad little girl, better. The trip back was taking longer than expected, not because of any problems with her, but because we had gotten lost. As twilight came on, the semi-familiar landmarks became less familiar, and somehow, in my rerouting, we took a wrong turn. We made it to the apartment without incident, but well after nightfall, and the resolutely stoic little girl had started to murmur about being hungry and needing the bathroom. When we got upstairs, I shared a look with Christine as I told the girl we'd fix her some dinner after we showed her something in the other room. Gosh, dude.
God damn,
Something
dude, you
in
can't
the
make
other
the
room.
girl a ham sandwich before fucking making your
Give her
doorway?
something. Oh, man. The paper and knife were already set up in the bedroom, so it should go quickly enough. Then the girl asked again about going to the bathroom. I relented, telling her to go on, but to make it quick. She nodded and went with dutiful haste into the hallway bathroom, closing the door behind her. Christine was giving me a hard look, to which I just shrugged.
It's 5 minutes. I think it's the least we can do. She's just a little girl.
Gosh, this is brutal. Her expression softened a little, her voice mimicking my hushed tone.
Yeah, I love, I like how her expression softened a little, like, cause she's just like, all right, fine, but the piggy better be quick.
They better, look, that little, that little blood bag in there better hurry up.
That little fat fuck better be quick. Sorry, I'm going crazy in this world. I know. I just want it over with. We have to get back.
I nodded and thought about reaching out to comfort her, but now wasn't the time. We had to stay focused and get past this. Then we could work on helping each other get back to normal. After another minute, the toilet flushed. Oh yeah, remember, don't flush after dark.
Oh, you dumb son of a bitch. Yep, I totally forgot about that. I totally forgot about that.
That came back. That actually came back. Wow. Immediately, the pipes began to squeal and rattle with a level of noise that still amazed me after nearly a week of using them. Christine had warned me about them, about not using them at...
It's after dark.
Christine's eyes were wide with panic.
He said to never flush after dark.
I felt fear fluttering in my chest and tried to ignore it.
I'm sure it'll be okay. What are the odds some roving bands is patrolling outside right now, just waiting for a sign of life to break in? Well, that's a fucking way to go, dude.
Scene cut to roving band patrolling outside.
Yeah, giant hordes of people sprinting in the building right now. I Am Legend shit, whatever happened.
It's more people for the metal cross. Still, I could feel my heart racing, and I was about to hammer on the bathroom door when the girl came out, looking confused at our excitement. Grabbed her arm and pulled her. You're definitely getting butchered for this.
Yeah, exactly. You fat little son of a bitch. She's like, I did it. No.
I grabbed her arm, pulled her across into the bedroom. She was still quiet, but she was starting to physically resist now. Fortunately, Christine was there and grabbed her from behind, wrapping her arms around the girl's chest.
I've got her. Do it. Hurry.
I let go of the girl's arm and looked into Christine's face. She looked 10 years older and like a different person than the woman I knew and loved. Her easy smile and bright, intelligent eyes had been replaced with a grim slash and dull stones that bored into me as she waited for me to grab the knife. I picked it up and had time to think about how heavy it felt, how wrong it felt in my hand. Next moment, there was a crash that sounded like it was coming from the front door of the apartment as someone tried to bash their way in. Christine's eyes widened as her grip on the child tightened.
Do it now, fucker! You fucking do it now before they're on top of us!
Being careful to avoid the child's face, I moved my gaze down to the knife. Taking a deep breath, I shoved it into the girl's stomach.
Oh, goddamn. Come on, Scott. Regular Scott.
Even then, she didn't complain other than to woof
How
sound.
can you use that while you're on a mount?
I was starting to cry,
That's
but the splintering
ridiculous.
sound of the front door finally gave way, spurred me on. Put my fingers in
I'm
the
out
blood
of
pouring
range.
from the
I
knife
need to get closer.
turned to trace the rectangle inside the paper door. Immediately a crack appeared, and at my touch, the door swung open.
Wow. So it fucking worked.
It worked. I shuffled away and told Christine to go through, seeing 2 men and 1 woman coming into the living room and looking at me across the distance. I jumped and slammed the bedroom door shut, twisting the lock, but knowing the door would only hold for seconds. Turning back, I saw the last of Christine disappear through the door, and I dove behind her, scrabbling through and back into my world. The first thing I noticed when I passed through was barking. I looked up to see Christine standing nearby, the knife we had used on the girl in her hand. Standing a few feet away at the doorway to the room was not Scott, and bizarrely, it looked like he was holding a small pug puppy that was furiously barking at us.
Get back, motherfucker!
Christine growled at him. Not Scott was about to say something in response, but then I was getting pulled back through the door. Rough hands had me, pulling at my clothes and yanking me away from my way home. I looked up and saw strange faces with small symbols tattooed between the eyebrows of all three of them. They didn't seem angry or even upset as they began to punch and kick me. Instead, they were placidly calm, almost bored looking, as though what they were doing was just part of their daily routine. Most likely it was. I tried to ball up, but I was hurting badly already. Protecting my stomach only exposed my back more. I closed my eyes tight. I knew I was going to die here, beaten to death by strangers in a strange world, but one of them started screaming. When I opened my eyes, I saw Not Scott pulling the knife Christine had been holding out of one of the man's eyes. As the man began to fall, the woman left off kicking me to jump on Not Scott's back with a furious howl. He pushed backwards, slamming her into the wall and jamming the knife back and into her side. Her howl turned into a yell of pain. As he yanked the knife free, he twisted around to drive it home into her neck with a wet, popping sound that made me wince. I realized that the other man had run out during this, and I was going to say so to Not Scott, but he was busy looking at the tattoo on the woman's face.
Fuck. Okay, you have to get out of here. Get back to the door. I'm gonna destroy it as soon as you go, and then try to catch that fucker and his buddies.
I was so confused, but I suddenly felt sure I shouldn't be leaving Not Scott here despite everything he had done.
Why don't you come back with us? You can pay for your crimes there.
He stared at me for a moment, then shook his head.
I can't. These aren't regular criminals. They're part of one of the big cults that has sprung up in the last few years. Call themselves the House of the Claw. If they figure out how to make a door, there's nothing stopping them, and God knows what else from pouring into your world. They was running packs of 4 or 5, so I have to try and get the rest of them now. But thank you for offering. And please take care of my puppy. His name is Trixie, and he's a very good boy.
I could see he was crying, but I knew he didn't like it when people commented on us crying, so I left it alone.
I promise, Scott. If you get them, and...
I almost said survive, but I couldn't make myself say the word.
You want to come over? Use one of those scraps and send me a note. I'll send you more paper to make a door.
I left out the unspoken step of him having to kill another child, but I saw in his eyes he was thinking it. He shook his head.
Don't worry about that. We have to be willing to make sacrifices for what matters. I understand that better now. Just go. Have a good life, both of you. And I'm sorry.
I nodded and rolled back onto my stomach, crawling as quickly as my pain would allow. As soon as my feet cleared the other side, the door was gone. I looked up to see Christine holding the shaking puppy, who looked at me for a moment before starting back to barking frantically and squirming. It's been 6 hours since then.
I'm out of range.
I found and read what the other Scott had written, and have included it above. To her credit, Christine was honest after reading his letter. She told me she had lied about him abusing her, and told me what she says is the truthful account of her time there with him and with me. I plan to include portions of that in this or earlier postings as well. She left a couple of hours ago to go home and clean up, get some rest. We hugged when we parted at my door, but I can tell everything's different now. Something was broken between us. I was too fragile or too rigid to bear the weight of all we have seen and said and done. The saddest part is that I'm okay with that. Last month has given me a great deal of insight into what I can to survive. Right now, I'm trying to make friends with a small puppy named Trixie. He's a cute little guy, but he rolls his eyes at me with mistrust whenever I try to go near him. I'm not the right Scott for him. I'm starting to think I'm not the right Scott for a lot of things.
It's too far
I've been
away.
checking the desk for a sign all night, but there's been nothing. So finally,
to get
after taking a second long shower and giving Trixie some more water, I tumble into bed in a deep slumber. Start awake and I can tell it's either early morning or early evening, but I have no idea which. Trixie is what woke me up, barking at something. I roll over and see he's jumping and barking at the desk. On it is a single scrap of blue paper. Leaping out of bed, I wipe sleep from my eyes and read it.
Got them. Fortunately for me, the house isn't afraid to recruit young. I'll be over shortly. Tell Trixie he's my precious.
Laughing and feeling stupid, I read the note to Trixie, who was bouncing excitedly against my leg as though he knew what was coming. So then I saw it. The door was opening one last time.
That's the end of I Wrote Myself a Letter!
That is the end. So I guess you do have to. Okay. So what I was expecting to happen is there's going to be a revelation at the end that like any blood can work, like you could use an animal or something. And it's like, oh, you jumped to the kid thing. But I guess her lying to him turned out to be the correct thing to do, because if it wasn't a child, because in that final note he says, "Good thing the child was young and used blood of children." So I guess she was right to lie and say that he needed to kill a kid.
I mean, I don't know if it was right. I think that, I think that through what was happening, I think both Christine and regular Scott were being found. And I
style to death. Yeah.
Well, I just mean in terms of like being like, is it justifiable what she was saying? No, I don't think so. I think that
I don't think
it's unfortunate. I think that you had to like to emotionally have to be in that spot to kill a chubby child, whatever.
It's so insane.
Is
so
crazy. I mean, like, I cannot believe it went through. I don't know how you're gonna live with yourself after that. Like, it's crazy. And the idea too. I don't know. How do you feel about that ending of like the door opening again?
I'm not crazy about the ending unless,
I don't like that.
Unless you kind of read it as a difference. Maybe someone else found out how to come through, because we don't know that that's not Scott coming through. You know, it could be.
Yeah, but no one else would know about the reading aspect. To me, it's like it's an awesome character growth. How much I ended up liking not Scott and everything. Yeah. So almost sitting there to where regular Scott, obviously with Christine, they're probably thinking about just want to be on the back and not able to live with yourself with some of the stuff you find out. But it's almost a thing. It's like where it's like wanting solace in himself. So he's just like maybe like him with this dog, and the dog still doesn't even really he understands he's not his real Scott. And then like it would have been interesting if it would have ended with him like looking at his desk being like, every day I kind of wish that a blue letter would pop up, or like, because I think by him coming back it kind of cuts that character growth he had in the story, in my opinion. When at the end we just like, you know what, yep, you have to make personal sacrifices. I get what my dad meant now. To me that's important, and this is my world. I'm not going to jeopardize other people in this world for the sake of myself, right? Mm-hmm. But then at the end when he's just like, you know what, they recruit young, and then like everyone doing like, look around, that kind of song. It feels good. Freeze frame was just like both the Scots ended up opening both Scots made. But it just felt kind of a bit like, I don't know. But all in all, I will say, I had such a great time with this story. Yeah.
No, I agree. I'm not crazy about that ending, but I did enjoy it. It was fun. It was very brutal at parts, but I think a lot. The mention about like the sexual abuse and like killing the child was so brutal. But it was a very dreadful world it depicted. And I think it was interesting.
In a parallel world that is like basically hell, like if you're gonna go that route, like go there, explore it in a fun way and make it a fucking roller coaster ride. And trust me, it was like having to be with these characters where you hate not Scott at the beginning, then you start rooting for him, and then the people that you were rooting for, you're kind of like, what are you doing? That character dynamic and the bouncing back and forth, and the way that the story read, where it kept changing perspectives of who was talking to us, the reader, was just really fun. And it was done in an effective way where it was seamless. Like, it didn't feel clunky or anything. There's other stories that do that. There's stories that would be like, no, I don't know, like my wife is peeking at me from around corners or something. Not that particularly, but then it would be like, my husband's doing this. And it's like a different story. It's all from that perspective. So to see a story where it's like, we don't have any of those other breaks. It's like it's the same cohesive story, but we're jumping around for a character and time. It's like almost like fucking Memento or Pulp Fiction. It's like it plays with time in a really interesting way, hopping back and forth and getting all these different characters' perspectives. So I just had a great time, man.
So going off of my jobs watching Women Trapped in the Room, if you remember, that was like a super interconnected story.
Yeah.
And when we got to the ending with the House of the Claw, I was like, the House of the Claw seems like a super specific thing to just mention at the end. end of a story.
Yeah.
So I go to his Reddit page, and then sure enough, House of a Claw is a theme thing
too
from
far.
another,
Oh my
from a
God,
bunch of other
bro.
stories. And then it turns out this dude
many
has
times
a
does
map
SR sheet
that I
have
just
to
sent
be
you,
linked?
Hunter.
Yeah, more.
That is a giant flow chart of how all his stories, connect to each other.
Okay, so I don't take this seriously, but Marisol might be a schizophrenic guy. This is insane. We'll drop a link to the diagram. I mean, but this is insane. And, you know, here's the thing too. In like
This is impressive. This is very impressive.
World building in this way is incredible. To have thoughts that interconnect in this way. You could also completely get rid of the exposition dump of like, yeah, well, apparently it's a cult that does this. You can get rid of that. But it being in there was not as distracting at the end.
It was a 1% as bad as I think it affected the ending of the other story.
Yeah,
But then
if
I
even
think the
a
other
1%.
story was never even meant to exist outside of being a collaborative story.
Exactly.
Whereas this one is one's more so like an Easter egg. So readers who are really into Aristotle's work,
If you know Veristol, and you like his work, it seems like all of the stories connect together in a way where they can be standalone, to where if someone had never heard of it before, they wouldn't even think much of it. But it's just a little other Easter egg to where I'm sure it makes reading his work as a whole a lot more rewarding, and how those things play off each other.
yeah, this is super impressive. Now, there's a couple that look like pure standalone, but most of them connected to each other. Pretty well.
When are we going to get the Veristol post-purge? That's what we're talking about. That's what we need
And then we're gonna come back. I'll come back to an episode and be like, I didn't like my job's watching a woman trapped in the room because what I didn't realize it's the opening of a third act of the greater universe of
Yeah, I just slip into a seizure and I just like drop to the floor.
Literally the way people talk about Marvel movies right now.
Yeah, like they're just.
Where they're like, no. The 14th spin-off show is good because it gives a connection between the 4th and 8th movies. It connects, and that's what happened to the one character from the first Captain America movie. It's like I literally cannot care less.
Man, I had such a great time. And I'll be honest, like I wrote myself a letter, I got a response. Is it the strongest hook we've had in terms of titles? Probably not, but I will say
It did well.
I really enjoyed the creativity of hopping between characters. Like the revelation in part 2 was just so fun. Like I really enjoyed that. And then even getting like a great this is Christine. It kept revealing itself in this fun time. And I don't think it overstayed its welcome to with making it like some self-explanatory schlock fest of like we're in this fucking world and people are they snap screaming to death, and it was just supposed to just be like it's a horrible fucking place that you just experience and be like Jesus, to where when it's something that in their moment as their fucking minds are being twisted, they're probably gonna justify, but that's one thing too in this real world that it's like you're gonna live with that, which also makes sense to me where I was like, oh, they're gonna break up obviously.
The justification for it is interesting as well because he kept being like, I mean, like everyone who's insane, this little girl's probably insane, so we're not doing her person like the way because I don't want to be. I wish the ending kind of blended with that a little bit more, being like he. I wanted the end of like he becomes Scott. What it did, like to be like evil in the other world, and John Scott's kind of like whoever's in that world becomes corrupted, you know. I mean, and the rest of the story was good that I really don't want to.
Well, I think I don't think that Scott is necessarily. I mean, here's the thing. Yes, he's a murderer. He's definitely a murderer. I'm not saying he's a good guy. I'm just saying that he is conscious enough. He's not insane. I think he knows that he's a murderer. I information. That's what I mean. It's like the things that he's doing, inspiration, and this stuff as well. Which it's an interesting back and forth. And there's no character who didn't do something fucking horrible in the story. Christine, regular Scott. I mean, everybody did some fucking horrifying thing to try to get back to the normal world. The normal world is basically heaven.
Simple. She was pre-time.
He was like writing it, he was just like, how do I get the cult near? He's like, yeah, what if I just say that you can't use the shitter after this time? Also basically sounds like the fucking Blue Man Group's playing in your apartment building.
It's also really funny that it's like the little girl's like, okay, I'll come with you guys. And she goes to the bathroom and they're like, what? Why'd you do that? Idiot! And then they stab her to death.
Christine becomes more like fucking stupid. And he's like, dude, she's not taking away her shit. She's a kid. Do you think it's funny because he can justify not feeding her, letting her shit, and then because he's like, well, come on, she's a girl. But then he's also like, I'm gonna stab you to death. I'm gonna fucking stab you to come on, Christine, for fuck's sake, she has to take a shit. Come on.
Will end this
Yeah, it's like, hey, be nice to the girl.
So that was the story. It was fucking awesome. Be sure to check out so check out Eric's stuff. And also, I mean, like, if there's any viewers on this one, trapped in a room. But I think that's just because also I liked Scott as a character more. I think that like just a really, really fun character piece with three characters. A lot of fun. Also, once again, CreepCast.store. Check us out there. If you're watching this on YouTube, consider checking us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you then in the next one.
Be sure to remember, kids, Hunter made fun of a small overweight child.
Fictitious child.
No, that's not
Fictitious child. Not real.
I think history will remember you off the information was. He's gone, so I can say that he does that off channel too. Anytime it's me and him alone, loves to talk about children, especially the big ones.
This boss.
Continue the fight!
Alrighty, let's see. Alright, let's do this one. This one's called My Crew and I Are Stuck on an Abandoned Ship. After their ship nearly capsizes, seafarers seek refuge on an abandoned ship. Quickly they realize it's a ghost ship lost at sea.
to another exquisite episode of CreepCast. Today, we are going to be reading a delightfully terrifying tale called Me Crew and I Are Stuck Aboard an Abandoned Ship. Can you help us? Part 1 of Part 6. You know me, I like boats in the sea, so I'm very excited to read this story.
He found out an hour ago that this story involves British people, and he has not quit the accent.
You might be a little more cultured this episode because I might do the whole thing in this accent.
So this story is written by an author, goes on Reddit as JL Goodwin 1990. And I don't see any links on their stuff to like any books or offsite, but they are an incredibly prolific no sleep writer. There are a ton of stories, titles like I used to love driving late at night, or I don't shower with the door ajar anymore, or my wife and I went to Las Vegas for our honeymoon. They have a ton of stories. And this one comes highly recommended, at least on No Sleep itself. And also just the premise, the title of it seemed really cool. Like we and I stuck aboard an abandoned ship. And we don't do, like I'm terrified of the sea, and I like nautical stories and like nautical horror and stuff like that. So I am eager for any excuse to crack into a story like this. So I'm looking forward to it.
I wouldn't mind if it got a little Lovecraftian in nature, is what I would say. And I'll tell you something else too. If this story's good, he might become Sir J.L. Goodwin 1990 by the end of this podcast, because that's what we're going to do. Will the author be knighted by the end of this story? I'm very, very intrigued to see.
Be sure to continue to like and support us on audio platforms. Thank you all for your time. Be sure to support the author. You know the drill. You all are great community, and we're lucky to have you.
Just want to say one last thing as well right off the top is for anybody who maybe likes to listen to these on long drives, or maybe likes to, you know, not maybe look at the two not so attractive hosts, consider going over for your eyes and your ears, audio listeners I'm saying, and go to Spotify. From there, these episodes are there in their entirety, and it helps support the channel. So please go and listen there on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and do be sure to give us a 5-star rating. Thank you. All right.
Actually, while you were doing whatever it is that you're doing, I was scrolling through his Reddit, and I have an exciting announcement about this guy. He is incredibly active in r/CreepCast.
Oh! Well, by golly, we caught ourselves a live one, haven't we?
Someone mentioned his story in our subreddit, r/CreepCast, saying the guys have to read this soon. And the author replied and says, I do indeed plan on eventually, when I have the money, to do the cover art and editing justice, release it as a novel. So he has plans to put this story that we're about to read into a novel. And seems very hyped. He says at the end, I'm hoping the guys will see your recommendation and cover it in a future episode. So, well, that's pretty cool.
I think that's great.
Here you go, Goodwin.
You know what? How about we go one farther? If we love this story, me and Isaiah will chip in to get the cover art done for your novel.
I will. So I'll say this. If we like this story, we will finance it. The cover art, at least, that part of it. But if Hunter does not, if we cannot break his accent by the end of it,
all right, so I will stay in character.
I will finance it entirely myself. But if he breaks at any point from here on out, we have to split it.
Challenge accepted. So let's read. My crew and I are stuck aboard an abandoned ship. Can you help us? Part 1. Go ahead.
If you're seeing this, that means the prayer that I've been making with every single ounce of hope left in my body has been answered. Thank God. I've been trying for the last 3.5 hours to get through any way possible to the outside world with no luck. I'm no computer expert, but the water damage my laptop has suffered must have severely screwed up the satellite link up something fierce. Any attempt to reach any website, be it the official Coast Guard one, or even most social media sites like Facebook or Twitter, have all yielded with the computer crashing and rebooting. But for reasons unknown to me, Reddit, or I should be more specific and say this particular page on Reddit managed to load perfectly without any issues. So I'm asking here and now, if anyone reads this, for help. For the record, my name is Nathan Rogers. I'm 33 years old, and I was the helmsman of fishing vessel called the Point of No Return. That is a bad idea to name a boat.
Right, exactly.
Sometimes they'll give like warships brutal names like that.
Right.
Like the ones that the Northwest Passage crew were lost on were called the Erebus and the Terror. They were only called that because they were previously war vessels.
Right. Right. Well, the Terror too. I just want to say, great show. If you haven't seen the show,
It's a great show.
check it out because it's bloody brilliant.
It takes a lot of like historical liberty. The Terror TV show does. It takes a lot of historical liberties in like some of the visions or maybe stories they had or what was stalking them. But as far as the actual like setting and timeline and like the people involved, it's actually very accurate.
Yeah, I know that it gets a bit. It takes some creative liberties here and there, but actually, it's it's. I believe it. If I remember correctly, they wrote the entire show off of sailors' diaries, based off of diaries they found from the sailors. But I could be wrong.
That's the Point of No Return. Seems like an intense name for like a fishing vessel.
Seems a bit metaphorical, probably, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. What I'm afraid is I'm gonna get used to the accent and I'm gonna quit thinking about it. I'm afraid that's gonna lie.
Don't know what you mean. Isaiah, at this point, I'm at my own point of no return. So,
I say was because currently she's thousands of feet beneath my feet in the churning surface of the northern firmament. But I'm getting ahead of myself. In case anything happens to us before anyone reads this, or I permanently lose connection, I should give as much of a detailed account as I can. That way someone might know where to find us, or at least know what happened. We left our home port of Portsmouth, New Hampshire about a week and a half ago. Oh, they're not even British! Their home port's New Hampshire.
oh my. This is quite the debacle. I found myself in, not sure why, but I believe this is British.
You know, why did you think it was British? You just said at the beginning. He said when we started the call, he said it in a normal voice, oh, they're British, and then he kept doing it. I thought you had info I didn't. Why did you assume they were British?
I think I might have looked into a backstory of a different author's story in our episode recommendations. Well, this makes, I'm a seaman, so I'm really a civilian of the world. So New Hampshire, Port Town, that's fine. I'm still British. I have to be.
You have to figure out you have to spend however much money this dude's got for art.
Well, maybe we get a deviant artist to do the art. Maybe save a little, a couple pence.
Maybe we commission a $40 artist on Fiverr. We chip in $20.
That might save. I don't have to dig too deep into my trousers to find that.
We reach out to him and we're like, here you go, and it's like an MS Paint.
I would be insulted if he didn't use it.
Can I tell you a secret? I'm in desperate need of medical attention and care. I'm so old, fat, and I'm falling apart at the seams. But I don't know what doctor to use. I don't know anything about doctors.
And that's why I use ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors. Choose the right one for your needs and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skin care, and much, much more.
Probably dick and ball stuff, boys.
And the nice thing about ZocDoc is that you can filter for doctors that take your insurance, are nearby, and are highly rated. It's super easy to use, and you can find an appointment time that works for you with the right doctor for your needs. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. Oh my God! You don't want to admit it,
but you should probably see a doctor. So stop putting off those doctor appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/CreepCast to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/CreepCast. ZocDoc.com/CreepCast.
About a week and a half ago, bound for the Grand Banks off the coast of Newfoundland. The point of no return is a long liner, and our aim was mainly to catch swordfish along with cod and haddock. The prime season for a good haul was coming to a close. With our haul during the summer falling short of our usual quota, we decided to make one final run to try and make some extra dough. When we arrived, we started off hauling in many good-sized fish. Everyone was happy.
Woo! Hell yeah! That's what I'm talking about.
Called Spencer. All of these guys from New England, from Jersey,
It's kind of
from
fitting, New
Maryland,
England.
with like
Right.
a super strong, like, called Spencer, the youngest member of our crew, as the first fish was hauled on board. But it was short-lived. After a few days, we began to fail to catch anything. It was as if all the fish had disappeared from the area. With our holds not even a quarter full, Gabe, our captain, made the call to sail even farther east, to the Flemish Cap. Thanks to a few of us making the mistake of watching The Perfect Storm to pass the time on the trip out, a few of us understandably had reservations about going so far from any landmass, but the captain pointed out the obvious.
Boys, I wish it weren't necessary to do,
He began, rubbing his thick white beard.
but it's either try the cap or go home, bro.
He looked to the sky, which looked clear.
Besides, the radar says there shouldn't be any storms for the duration of our trip.
Up until now, I've never believed in the concept of jinxing, but I can't help but swear that he jinxed the hell out of us with those words.
You also watched The Perfect Storm. Am I wrong? I mean, like, what do you mean he's the one who jinxed you? You're on a boat called The Point of No Return, and you've watched the fucking Mark Wahlberg and George Clooney movie, The Perfect Storm.
That's
Notorious.
a really good movie.
I haven't seen it in so long, and it's notorious. Ship go, things go a little mucky on the sea on a boat, kind of movie. So,
Right.
just want to say, can't put it all on the captain. Just want to point that out.
Right. It's partially their fault as well.
Right.
We made way for the cap and reached it about a day or so later. To our shock and of course our elation, we began to haul in a metric ton of fish. Any apprehensiveness we had melted away like butter in a pan, and we all became infected by the thought of how much money we were going to make. Until, that is, the dark clouds began to move in on the horizon. I'd been at my station at the helm, and I looked out the starboard windows to see the ominous darkness rolling towards us. What the hell? According to the weather reports, the nearest storm was hundreds of miles away, and yet here I was staring one dead in the face.
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
I muttered, flicking on the ship's autopilot and walking for the door that led outside. Pushed it open, thick smell of the ocean and fish wafting over me. Looking down at the aft deck, saw the captain helping the others ready the lines for their next drop.
Hey, Cap!
I yelled out, raising my voice to be heard above the boombox blasting out hard rock music. Glanced up, shielding his eyes so he could see me better. I stabbed my finger towards the gathering storm, which occasionally flashed red. I still perfectly remember how the captain's face filled with shock and surprise as he turned to see it. The rest of the crew turned and spotted it as well.
That's just great.
Will, another of our crew, shouted out exasperatedly, dropping the hooks and lines to the deck. The rest of the crew led our curses, and some turned to the captain, asking the questions I couldn't hear over the music. After speaking to them for a minute, he walked over and turned off the boombox before making his way up the steps, standing beside me.
Where exactly in the hell did that come from?
He muttered, pulling his hat off his head and scratching at the tufts of gray hair that remained there.
I don't know, sir.
I admitted, watching another bolt of lightning flash inside it.
All I know is I was at my station looking around. 1 minute I don't see it, and the next...
Trailed off. I followed the man back into the wheelhouse as he walked to the radar display. For a moment he stared down at it and lightly began to smack at it.
Piece of shit.
What's wrong?
He gestured to the screen.
The stupid radar must be on Fritz again.
It doesn't show the storm on the radar at all.
A small wave of confusion swept over me. I personally repaired the system the last time it wonked out, and as far as I knew, it had been working perfectly. But as I stepped next to him, I saw he was right. The storm clouds were displayed on the radar in the direction the storm was coming from. A shiver rushed up my spine when I didn't understand why I'd had it. The cabin was warm and comfortable, and yet it felt as if we just walked through thick fog. Finding my voice, I looked at the captain, who held a thoughtful gaze.
So, what do we do?
He took a second to answer, then sighed.
I'm not gonna risk you boys in my ship. Especially not after we have a good catch in the hold. Start plotting us a course back to Portsmouth. Hopefully we'll manage to stay just ahead of the storm.
And with that, he turned and left the wheelhouse, heading back outside to help the others store the gear in preparation for our departure. I could hear the faint sound of them yelling to each other as they rushed about, music playing again as well. I walked to the starboard windows and gazed out. The storm appeared closer now, the lightning flashes becoming more frequent. A particularly bright flash came. For a moment, my eyes locked on a particular cloud formation that had silhouetted in it. I blinked my eyes rapidly, the rational side of my brain attempting to wrangle in the other. No, there's no way you just saw that. You know full well storms play trick on your eyes. Shaking my head, I returned to the helm, turning off the autopilot and nudging the throttle forwards, hearing the rumble of the engines and grease. I kept telling myself that I'd been seeing things. And another shiver ran up my spine as I couldn't shake the image from my mind. The image of a cloud formed to the shape of a human skull. What a delightful trip.
Absolute hell.
Nothing bad happened. Now, listen, let's get on the point of no return. Let's go out farther than we're supposed to. Watch Perfect Storm.
I will say I like the setup so far. Like the idea of being on a vessel and then having an unsuspected storm that's not being caught on your radar. I don't know. I like that.
It's
setup.
fun. It's a classic like ocean mystery setup. I think. I dig it.
Very like Scooby-Doo.
We only made it about 7 or 8 miles west when the storm overtook us. I've been on the water my entire life, and I've been fishing on commercial vessels since I was 18 years old. I've seen many strange and sometimes unexplainable things, and I've seen my fair share of storms, some very bad. But I'm not exaggerating when I tell you I've never seen a storm as fierce as this one. 20 minutes after the dark gray, almost black clouds slid over my head. The point of no return was being hammered by 12 to 14-foot swells, crashing water under the deck. The wind howled as fiercely as a banshee, and the world around us turned almost pitch black, the only illumination coming from the almost blinding flashes of lightning, which were followed by roars of thunder. I gripped the helm with hands that had begun turning white at the knuckles, bracing my legs for each impact. The captain stood beside me, gripping the metal railing next to the helm to keep from falling.
Just keep going!
Yelled at me. Some of the crew stood behind us, staring out at the maelstrom with wide, frightened eyes. It was a fear that I found infectious, for as much as I kept calm for all outer appearances, inside I was terrified. As horrified as horror movie monsters are made out to be, they don't hold a candle to the existential dread and terror that Mother Nature at her worst can instill you with. Suddenly, Wyatt, one of our engineers, flew up the stairs from below.
Captain, we're taking on water somewhere, and I can't find the source!
So many of the crew's faces go pale, but the captain remained calmed.
All of you, get below and help Stroxy find this source and either patch it or seal it. Then start the pumps to get the water in the boat out.
For a moment, nobody moved until he barked again.
Do you want to end up at the bottom of the ocean? Move your asses!
That got their attention, and they quickly followed Wyatt down the stairs to the crew quarters and lower decks. As we crested another huge swell, I spared a glance at the radar screen. It still showed no sign of the storm on its green screen as the line made its way around in a circle. I shook my head, feeling a strange feeling, one I couldn't place come over me. But I pushed it away, forcing myself to focus. Everyone's counting on you, Nate. Keep your head in the game and pray to the good Lord above you make it out of this. I shot a glance at the captain.
You really think we're gonna make it through this, Gabe?
I asked, the seriousness in my using his first name making him look hard at me before clapping a hand on my shoulder.
with a good crew and a terrific man at the helm. Son, yes, I do.
He declared, pulling out a pipe from his pocket and lighting it. Thick, hazy smoke filled the room as he spoke again.
I've been through far worse than this, after all.
Somehow, I doubted the man's words, but I tried to let them bring some much-needed comfort to me. A large wave crashed over the bow, splashing the front windows with water and obscuring my view ahead for a few moments. When it cleared, the world outside was again pitch black, the outer lights of the boat barely illuminating 20 feet around us. Strong vibration suddenly emanated from the floor beneath my feet, and I shot a glance down at the metal. What the hell was that? My answer was given a moment later as another crew member, Andrew, ran up the stairs. He was soaked with seawater, and his eyes darted around in their sockets in panic.
Captain, the pumps are working the hardest, but we're taking on more water than we can expel. We can't find the source of the leak either.
The captain cursed and turned to me.
Nathan, hold fast up here and keep going east.
I'm out of range.
I'm gonna go below and try to help.
Not giving me a chance to answer, he turned away, beginning to head towards the companionway stairs. I just turned back to look out the window when the brightest flash of lightning came, turning the world around us from night to day. It also revealed something dead ahead, something that made my heart almost stop.
Oh, fuck my life.
Racing towards the point of no return was a rogue wave.
Oh, fuck.
One that dwarfed all the swells around us. My mind screamed at me that it had to be at least 30 or 40 feet high, enough that it blocked out the sky ahead.
Captain!
I screamed at the top of my lungs. I heard him stop and the sound of his footsteps as he dashed back next to me.
Good God Almighty! Nate, turn us broadside into the wave! Our only hope is for us to roll over completely!
I turned to see him snatching for the microphone handset, which connected the wheelhouse to the ship's intercom as I began ripping the helm to port. Whoa. Oh my gosh. I think I would rather be shot.
Yeah, I would just say, Captain, put a bullet in me head. Is what I would say.
Our only option is to do a complete barrel roll.
That.
No, absolutely not.
I'm not fucking doing that, no.
Yeah, no, kill me, please.
Yeah.
Behind me, I heard Andrew let out a strangled scream as he spied the behemoth racing toward us.
All hands! We have a rogue wave incoming! Brace for impact!
The captain shouted into the mic. Below, I heard the terrified shouts of the crew spring up. I clenched the helm in a death grip as tears silently poured out of my eyes. In my head, the scene from The Perfect Storm flashed. The Andrea Gale being flipped and driven into the ocean. I only had enough time for one quick thought. Please, God, no. The wave smashed into us with all the force of a dozen runaway semi-trucks. The portside windows of the ship shattered into 1,000 pieces, and the freezing seawater rushed over us in a seemingly unending wave. For a moment, my mind was unable to comprehend what had happened, and then it began screaming at me as I felt the world begin to rotate. We're underwater. We're flipping underwater in the wave. The realization horrified me, and I felt certain that we would begin sinking like a stone to the bottom of the ocean. Let a silent prayer for my death to be quick. And then, to my astonishment, we emerged back into the world above the waves. The shock at still being alive froze me in place, and then I looked around. I spied the captain, who locked his arms in a death grip around the metal bar next to me. Andrew had been tossed to the back of the wheelhouse. I saw a large gash in his head as he stumbled to his feet, coughing out water. Instantly, the captain ran to the stairs and shouted down to me.
Somebody get up here and give me a damage report!
Literally my biggest fear.
As he did, I looked down at the screens in front of me. I felt a wave of despair wash over me as I saw most short-circuited after their meeting with the ocean. The radar still glowed green as the screen crackled and flickered, as though it would go out in a second. Wyatt appeared at the top of the stairs, blood dripping from his right arm and soaked to the bone.
Give me some good news, Wyatt.
The captain yelled over the howl of the wind and screamed into the wheelhouse through the broken windows. To me, it sounded almost more like a plea than a demand. Wyatt shook his head.
The portside engine is dead, sir. Starboard is still running, but barely. Our main generator is dead, and the backup is running everything at full capacity.
let out a shaky breath and looked at the floor before finishing.
And the pups are dead as well, sir.
For a moment, nobody spoke. The implication of the man's words hung like nooses around all our necks. The pumps were dead, so were we. It was only a matter of time before the ship filled up with too much water and foundered. We're now running on borrowed time. When the captain spoke again, his tone was more subdued.
Go down below and tell the men to gather all the emergency supplies they can. Food, water, first aid kits. Have them bring the life raft up and set it down. We'll stay with the ship as long as she'll take us. Then we'll abandon ship into the raft.
Wyatt began to speak.
Captain, with all due respect, these waves will tear apart the...
Don't argue with me! Just do it!
Wyatt took a step back and turned wordlessly and headed back down the gangway. And then turned to Andrew, who had begun shaking slightly, as a result of both the freezing water covering him and fear.
Andrew, try the radio and send out a distress call. You know the drill.
For a moment, the younger man stood as still as a statue. Then he rushed to the radio and jammed his hands down on the transmit button.
Mayday! Mayday! This is the fishing vessel point of no return. Registration number 57306.
We're approximately, I don't know, somewhere off the coast of Newfoundland, and we need urgent assistance. Our ship is taking on water and sinking. Does anyone read me?
I tuned his words out as he began to repeat, turning instead to look out the broken windows. I didn't say it out loud, but I knew we were royally screwed. Wyatt's right. These waves will tear the raft to pieces long before anyone reaches us. Darkness began to spread as I was faced with the unavoidable thought that these might be the final minutes of my life. Moments of my past flashed in front of my eyes. Growing up as a child in Portsmouth, spending weekends at friends and my mother's in Kittery Point, visiting BG's boathouse with my mother and aunt, my relationship with Dana, my ex. Single image suddenly appeared in my mind. My friends and family crowded around a cross commemorating us, crying. Breath began to come in short, ragged gasps as I tried to force away the image. Bing! The sound snapped me out of the inner battle with my mortality, and I blinked for a second. What the? Then it came again. Bing! The realization suddenly crashed into me as hard as the wave had. The radar. Looking down, I watched the flickering screen as the line made its way around again. This time, as the sound rang through the wheelhouse a third time, I saw the large shape appear, and it sent a bolt of renewed hope through me.
Captain! I've got something on the radar!
The sound of Andrew's distress call stopped as both men turned towards me.
I think it's a ship!
Instantly, the man was at my side, gazing down at the screen.
I don't believe it! You're right!
He breathed out in an astonished tone, then he locked eyes with me.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking, Nate?
He asked. I swallowed.
Gabe, right now, there isn't much of an alternative.
Looked at me for another second before nodding.
They'd head approximately south-southwest and pour on the power.
For the next 20 minutes, we crashed through the storm in silence, aside from Andrew, who returned, attempting a distress call. Finally, he gave up.
Captain, the rogue wave must have snapped off the radio antenna.
Still, we continued on. I strained my eyes against the lashing wind and rain pouring through the windows, praying to catch sight of our only chance at survival. And then, in the flash of lightning, I saw it. Even a few miles away from us, I could tell the ship was huge. She rose almost imposingly out of the water, rolling up and down in the waves of the storm. Another flash of lightning showed that her hull was black, while her upper decks were painted white. Two large red and black smokestacks rose into the sky, almost disappearing out of sight. I heard the captain let out a low whistle as he spotted it as well.
She's gotta be, what, 800 feet long?
I called over the wind.
Try more like 1,000!
By now, most of the rest of the crew had reappeared from the below deck. They brought the gear the captain had ordered up and had packed it into waterproof bags. I'd also requested that the satellite phone and laptop be brought up as well. Unfortunately, the phone was very much dead from being submerged, but the laptop, according to Will, was able to be salvaged. When they caught sight of the giant ship, they let out cheers and turned to hug one another. I realized I hadn't been the only one feeling that death was breathing down our necks. As we drew within half a mile of the ship, I realized something was off.
Captain, she's dead in the water. Not moving at all.
If she'd been under power, it would have taken longer to draw near. Captain looked hard but nodded.
You're right. She must have snapped off her mooring lines in the storm somewhere. It's a ghost ship adrift!
Saw the crew's faces at the news.
So, what do we do now?
Kenny, the other engineer, asked. Captain turned to them as I steered us closer.
We stick to the plan. We draw alongside her and find a way aboard. We transfer our equipment on board, and then we'll go from there.
The look of hope returned in some of their eyes, but I saw apprehension in their others. I didn't blame them one bit. Fear still coursed through my veins.
It's too far away.
All it takes is one screw up, one mistake, and we're all dead. The captain ordered me to move around to the ship's port side so as to give us a small bit of shelter from the storm. He then snapped on the powerful searchlight, which thankfully hadn't been taken out by the wave, and traced it over the ship. A few minutes later, I heard him let out a triumphant laugh.
Nate! Move us next to the middle of a ship! There's a ladder dangling there!
He was right. I saw the white lines and wooden steps flailing about in the wind. Sparing a glance behind us and seeing that the ocean was beginning to creep over the back of the transom, I hastily maneuvered the point of no return over to the ladder, nudging the throttle into neutral as we drew alongside. Sparing a glance out of the open side door, I saw Spencer and Will reaching out with boat hooks to snatch the ladder. Yes, the two men hooked it and lashed it onto our railing.
Okay, one man at a time. Get the gear and get up there.
Slowly, almost painfully, the 8 members of our crew made their way up the ladder and onto the ship. As I watched Wyatt climb out of sight, sound caught my attention. I looked down to see all of the remaining gauges die, and the sound of the remaining engine idling died away. Crap. Almost immediately afterwards, I became aware of a new sound. It was one that spurred a new wave of panic in me. It was the sucking sound of the sea rapidly flooding the point of no return.
Captain! She's going under!
I screamed, snatching up the last bag of supplies. I saw the man give an almost pained look as he cast a final look at the vessel he'd worked his entire life to afford before shouting at me and Kenny, last two aboard besides himself.
All right, boys, abandon ship!
Kenny went up the ladder first, unable to wait for him to make it all the way up. The captain and I unsnapped the ladder from our railing and began climbing after it. We were halfway up when I heard the sucking sound increase to a fever pitch. Stopping and sparing a look below me, I saw the point of no return bow lift out of the water as her stern slipped below the waves. She rapidly began to sink, and I turned to continue climbing. That was when a scream came from overhead. I snapped my gaze up to see a body fall past me, missing me by less than a foot. For a moment, shock kept my mind from working until I realized who I'd seen in the split-second flash of lightning. I screamed out into the dark, but when the lightning flashed again, I saw no sign of him floating in the waves. Only the bow of our ship as it finally slipped below the waves. I shouted the man's name again, the wind tearing the cry from my lips and off into the storm.
Nathan, he's gone!
Came a cry from below me. I shot a look down, seeing the captain looking up at me with a horrified expression.
Get at the ladder!
I fought my emotions for a moment, but climbed as quickly as I could for the railing. A few moments later, both the captain and I hauled ourselves over, collapsing onto the wooden deck with sputtering coughs and groans. When I raised my head, it was to see the ashen face of Wyatt looking down at us.
Where's Kenny?
I took in a shaky breath and shook my head slowly at him. I saw the shock and horror flash into his face. The same happened to all of the men standing behind him.
I need to get closer.
For my part, I simply felt numb. Even though I'd lost my aunt to ovarian cancer in 2009, lost one of my mom's family friends to a brain tumor in 2012, I never actually seen someone die before. Not in real life, anyway. My mind was a jumble. I couldn't think properly. Thankfully, though, the captain stood up and spoke up, his voice shaking only for a second before hardening.
As hard as this may be for everyone, we need to get inside and out of the storm. We'll have time to be able to grieve later. Right now, we need to get away from the wind and rain before we catch pneumonia or hypothermia.
His words seemed to bolster everyone, even myself, and we all stood, gathering our supplies and moving to find a door inside. After a few minutes searching, we found one, and after snapping on the waterproof flashlights we all had, we stepped inside the ship. Okay, I've got to say, That was awesome. That entire
out of
sequence
range.
of like the ship going down and the storm and them rolling and everything and having to
Yeah.
catch the ladder. Oh, that was so good. You just said yeah without the British accent.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
What?
Yeah, no Brit.
No,
yeah,
I mean,
you
that's
lose.
what they sound like. So, I mean, not every word is going to be so colourful.
No. That
Yeah.
was a break. That was a break for sure.
I think that I'm still in my accent. I'm still doing it. It's just, yeah. Sometimes you sound like that,
Okay.
you know? Not everything's
Anyway.
some fruity, delightful piece of ginger, you know? I don't know what else to tell you.
Anyway, that whole thing was great. I really loved it. The descriptions of like the captain and the foul moments, watching the ship go down, like the terror of it, the intensity. That was great. That was awesome. And now, how cool of a concept! There's a ghost ship in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of this storm that they have to go on to. And like, oh man, that's so cool. This is great. This is stellar. I love this. Okay. Anyway. Instantly, the sound of the howling wind grew fainter as we found ourselves inside a companionway of some kind. It seemed like it was meant for the crew. It seemed more Spartan and function over form than what I'd seen from the rest of the ship. Nobody said a word as we made our way down until we came to another door. Will, being the first in line, reached out and opened it, and we stepped into what I can only describe as the most luxurious lounge I've ever been in. The walls were plastered with wood that reflected back in the glow of our lights. What appeared to
too
be
far away.
marble
I'm
lined
out
the
of
ceilings
range.
overhead. I saw dozens of tables and chairs, ones that had been once scattered across the room, lying overturned or on their sides. No doubt thrown about by the storm. Walking further into the room, I turned to the left and aimed my flashlight at the wall. I nearly jumped out of my skin as my light reflected off a huge face that gazed back at me.
Jesus!
Feeling my heart begin a marathon in my chest,
What? What is it?
I heard Andrew call out. All the men ran to me and aimed their lights at what I'd seen. Instantly, the tension that filled the room was replaced by the sound of laughter.
Fucking hell, Nate. Are you really that afraid of the Queen of England?
Okay, now your
redeemed.
accent
Redeemed.
is like
Redeemed.
Well, no, because these are American sailors on
Hey,
a
what,
British
are you
ship.
that
Yeah.
afraid of the Queen, Nate?
That, by the way, is like a like hand of God pull for you. That this becomes a British
Redeemed.
story after you completely made up the British part of it. Vinny, another one of our crew, asked as he fought for breath. I let out a shaky breath of my own as I played the light over what I now saw was a painting, one of Queen Elizabeth II. Then I began to laugh along with him.
Fucking
Good
baller.
Lord, Nathan, you really are a pussy.
hell yeah, brother.
For a minute, we all stood there, laughing and feeling the mood lighten somewhat. The levity helped lighten the sadness that we all felt. It was cut short by the captain's voice as a loud rumble of thunder came from outside.
All right, everyone. Change into dry clothes and break out the sleeping bags. Then get some sleep. This has been one of the worst days of our lives. We need to rest. Tomorrow, we'll take stock of the ship and figure out what to do next.
And with that, everyone began to fan out, finding a lone corner to change in without being seen. As they did, I approached the captain.
Gabe.
I said, tapping the man on the shoulder, turned to look at me, and I instantly saw the haunted look in his eyes. The poor man blames himself for Kenny. I wanted to say something, say that it wasn't his fault. Instead, I told him I wanted to stay up a little, get the laptop out, and try and get a signal from the satellite connection, try and find a way to send out a call for help.
I need to get
After a moment's
closer.
hesitation, he agreed, gesturing towards the vast amount of chairs and
Too far
tables.
away.
Go ahead. Just try and get some sleep afterwards.
I nodded, patted him again on the shoulder before turning away. That's where I am
Nice.
now. Changed into dry clothes and found a thick,
Successful
cushioned
run.
armchair on its side. Set it upright and pulled out the laptop. Battery was, thankfully, fully charged. I have a solar charger if it gets low, which survived. But, as I said at the start, it had to have sustained some kind of water damage because it won't let me go to many, if any, sites. Only this one. I'm the only one of us left awake now. All around me, I can hear the snores of my fellow crew members, hear them rolling over to get comfortable on the carpeted floors. I still hear the rain pounding on the roof of the great ship, hear the thunder rumble, and feel the ship lurching up and down in the waves. Pray she doesn't hit any rocks during the night. We don't need another problem on our hands. There is one final thing I have to say, though I can't help but feel foolish about it. I know that we're the only ones on board. Otherwise, people would have already come by now. We'd be swarmed with crew or passengers. And yet, I can't shake the feeling I'm being watched. I know it's ridiculous, but I can't make the feeling go away. I feel like a goldfish with its owner staring in at me, and I don't like it one bit. I even took a walk around outside this lounge to reassure myself nobody else is here. I know the captain wouldn't have liked me doing so, but I wouldn't have been able to sleep otherwise. If anyone reads this, can anyone help us? We're only fishermen who've dealt with a 70-foot long liner, not a giant cruise ship or ocean liner. Does anyone know what we have to do to get power going again, where we have to go, if we can get power restored? We might be able to get the radio on board working again and let people know we're out here. And is there anything else important we should do tomorrow? Anything at all you can think of? Please let me know.
Safe travel.
If anyone sees this. Check back in the morning, see if anyone has. Oh, and one final thing. I don't know if it'll help, but when I went for my walk to prove to myself no one else is here, I found a life ring, which had the name of the ship stamped into it. Maybe someone can look to see if the ship has been labeled missing or something, which would work to try and get someone to know where we are. The name of the ship bears the same name as a huge, almost creepy looking painting on the wall that, in the dark, I try not to look at. The RMS Queen Elizabeth.
End of part 1.
I gotta say.
Go ahead and say
I like it.
What do you gotta say?
I like it. I like this a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
Just the uniqueness of the premise. We were a fishing vessel that found this abandoned cruise ship, it looks like, but no one's on it, and like we don't know where we're at, and there's a storm, and I feel like there's some entity watching us. Just gotta say, like, I already have a soft spot for like ocean stories or nautical stuff, and this is checking every box I have for a story like this. It is so cool. I'm liking this a lot right now.
It's very nice.
That name,
I like that. It's also setting it up to where I feel like it's setting up a paranormal angle, potentially ghost ship kind of thing. You even get some fun, you know, it could go any direction, which I think is fun. Paranormal, monster, you know, whatever. It could go in so many different directions, and I'm excited to keep unveiling the story.
I thought that name Queen Elizabeth was familiar. And I was like, what's that? So I look up RMS Queen Elizabeth. In 1972, while she was undergoing refurbishment in Hong Kong Harbor, a fire broke out aboard under unexplained circumstances, and the vessel was capsized by the water used to fight the fire. The following year, the wreck was deemed an obstruction to shipping in the area, and in 1974 and 75 was partially scrapped on site. Well,
well, that doesn't seem too good.
Well, that's not great. Just gotta say, being on that ship now, not a good thing, I would argue. Anyway, so yeah, they're on a ghost ship. So that's
They're
great.
on a ghost ship at the moment, right?
They're on a ghost ship with a giant skull in the clouds looking down on them.
Yeah.
Apparently,
it did give some Harry Potter vibes there for a moment. But you know,
yeah, you know what? I was thinking about that. I was like, there's a skull in the cloud, and there's a mention like before the wreck of the captain lighting a pipe. But I'm also having so much fun with like the tone of the story,
yeah, no,
like
it's great.
The ship and like, Captain, we're taking on water, whatever. That I'm willing to forgive it. I'm willing to look over it. Yeah. It's okay if it's a little cheesy. I mean, they're on a ghost ship in an ocean, right? So.
Yeah, no, I'm having a great time with it.
All right, so we are now on to part 2. Thank God. To say I'm relieved that the first post got through would be an understatement of massive proportions. Even though it seems like not many people saw it, the fact that anybody did is a blessing in itself. It gives me hope that all of us might make it out of this situation yet. First and foremost, to the people who did see it and commented, I can't thank you enough. Especially to the person who suggested a plan for what to do in regarding the power. It was actually thanks to you that I was able to give the captain and the others a suggestion of what to do today. Unfortunately, due to the fact we were so excited to get off the point of no return before she sank out from under us, we didn't bring the life raft with us. Only the supplies we thought we'd need. We were too caught up in the fact we had a better alternative to remember to liken up the ladder. I do have to confess one thing to you all though. When I first woke up this morning and checked the comments you left, I thought people were either pulling my leg, thinking I was bullshitting you all, or that you had to be mistaken. After all, if the Queen Elizabeth caught fire and sank years, if not decades ago, how the hell could we be on board? Ghost ships, legitimate ones, only exist in horror films, not real life. There'd be a mistake made here. However, after some of the things that have happened today, can't help but start to wonder if you're right. And if you are, we're in a whole lot bigger trouble than I thought we were. I'm jumping the gun though. I should tell you what went down today. When I first woke up, the first thing I realized was that the storm had passed. The rain no longer pounded on the roof of the ship, and it no longer twisted about in the swells. For a moment, it was so calm that I forgot where we were, what had happened yesterday. Then everything came crashing back to me, causing me to sit up straight in my sleeping bag. The first thing I saw was the captain, who sat in one of the lounge chairs. He must have woken up a while ago. His head turned in my direction as I pulled myself out of the bag and to my feet, and he gave a short nod. Winding my way around the sleeping forms of the others, I made my way over to him.
How long you been up, Cap?
I whispered as I picked up another chair and set it beside him. He shrugged.
A little while now. Was planning on waking everyone up in about 20 minutes or so anyways.
I could still see that losing Kenny still weighed heavily on his shoulders. The man likely hadn't got much sleep due to it eating away at him. I decided to say something.
You know what happened wasn't your fault, Gabe. Kenny was above us. We couldn't have done anything to save him. It was just an accident.
For a moment, I saw his eyes harden and his mouth open as if to snap at me. Then he slumped into the chair, his body seeming to sag.
I appreciate you saying that, Nathan. More than you know. But a captain's job is to keep his crew safe. To get them home. And I didn't do that for Kenny. And I'm gonna have to live with that.
I wanted to argue, but I saw that no amount of it would change his mind. Instead, I nodded and turned to look out across the massive room. We roused the others a few minutes later, and as they opened up the supplies we'd brought to bring out some food and water, the captain reminded me to check the laptop. Booting it up, I saw the battery was low, making a mental reminder to set the solar power charger in the sunlight outside to charge it back up. Then I checked the post it had made. Hope and excitement surged through me as I saw comments left below.
You guys.
People saw what I wrote.
In seconds, I was surrounded as everyone crowded around me. A bottle of water and a granola bar were shoved into my hands as they read the comments you all had left. There was silence for a few moments, then Spencer spoke up.
That can't be right.
He said softly. He looked up at us.
These people can't be right? There's no way the ship they're talking about is the same one we're on board.
Wyatt answered him.
No way, Spence.
They either think we're playing with them or just spewing bullshit, or they're thinking of another ship. We're not in some early 2000s horror film.
I shot a look at the captain.
Cap, you're the oldest of us. Do you know if there was a ship called the Queen Elizabeth that did catch fire and sink?
He stayed quiet for a moment, seemingly lost in thought before answering.
There was a ship called the Queen Elizabeth that was built in the 1930s. And it did catch fire and sink in Hong Kong Harbor in the early 70s. But no, there's no way this could be the same one. There's no such things as ghost ships that manifest out of nothing.
He stood up, seeming to push away any remaining thoughts of the matter from his head.
We need to be getting onto a more realistic and pressing matters, though. We need to find a way to get power going. Without it, we have no way to operate the radio to send out a call for help.
I pointed out a particular comment that gave an idea of what to do. He leaned down, silently reading it before nodding.
Is it? That's our plan for the day.
He declared before splitting us up into two teams. One team, comprising of myself, Andrew, Spencer, and Will, would explore as much of the ship as we could, while the captain, Wyatt, and the only other remaining member of our crew, a tall, muscular Italian man named Vinny, would try and find their way down to the bowels of the ship to restore power. With the plan made, and a set of walkie-talkies given to the captain and me to maintain contact with each other, we exchanged a last good luck and stay safe, left the lounge. Flicking on our flashlights, the four of us slowly walked back through the hallway we'd taken to get inside. A moment later, we emerged into the bright light of day. The sun felt nice and warm on my face, and I couldn't help but let a small smile cross my face. It disappeared though, as my eyes looked out beyond the railing. The endless ocean surrounded us, stretching far beyond the horizon. No sign of land anywhere. A small shiver shot through me as the image of our ship slipping beneath the waves replayed in my mind, along with watching Kenny fall to his doom. I shook my head. Snap yourself out of it, Nate. Keep focused. Pulled the solar charger from my pocket and set it down next to the open hatch. Pick it up later when we came back this way. Andrew spoke up, pointing to the row of lifeboats that hung from davits that spread out away from us.
You think those would still be safe to use?
I shrugged my shoulders.
I don't see why not. But I wouldn't want to try and use one of those to get back to shore.
I pushed the hair out of my eyes and pushed my glasses up my nose.
All right, let's keep moving, guys.
For the next few hours, the four of us explored both the inside and outside of the ship, occasionally stopping to radio our position back to the captain. Queen Elizabeth was indeed a luxury ship in every sense of the word. The wood on the outside decks was well varnished, teaked, shining brilliantly in the sunlight. The same was true for the miles of wood that plastered the walls of the carpeted hallways and rooms that crisscrossed the inside like a maze. I was almost in awe of how beautiful it was. However, there was one thing that surprised me, and I wasn't the only one to notice. As we walked through another lounge, Will said the words that incessantly reverberated in my head.
Anyone else notice we haven't seen a single TV on board yet?
Andrew shrugged his shoulders.
Hey, who knows? Maybe they took all the TVs off the walls for renovations or something. Or maybe it's one of those ships that deliberately doesn't have any in order to keep the passengers from not taking part in the activities.
His words reassured me a little, but I still couldn't help but feel a little uncomfortable. The entire time we'd been exploring the ship, an indescribable feeling had followed me like an annoying dog. And to make matters worse, the feeling of being watched I'd had last night hadn't gone away. Every so often, I would shoot a look behind us as we had walked, aiming my light back the way we'd come. I saw nothing, but for whatever reason, it felt like something had been there, and pulled back just out of sight every single time I'd look. As we entered what, according to the sign above the door, was the first-class smoking room, the radio on my belt chirped. There's a layer of static above everything due to the massive amount of steel and wood in the way, and rows of accounts were mistaken.
Nathan, we finally reached the engine room. We also found the power source.
There was a small trace of surprise in the man's voice as he continued.
You're not gonna believe this, but the ship is powered by what appears to be Yarrow boilers. I haven't seen these things on a ship since I was a young man in the Navy.
Spencer's face scrunched up in confusion.
What the hell is a Yarrow boiler?
I shrugged my shoulders and hit the transmit button.
Can you get the power going?
There was another wave of static before he answered.
It'll take a little while, but yes, we'll be able to get power back to the ship. Just give us about 20 minutes or so, half an hour at most. It's been a while since I've had to fire one of these beam-us-ups. And there are 12 of them down here.
Static flipped off.
Well, now what do we do in the meantime?
Will asked. Spencer began to answer him.
I remember seeing on a map on the wall that there's a first-class gym on this deck. The four of us could go and lift some weights until they get everything going. Or, if we fancy a swim, there's a swim pool as well. Or hell, we could even...
He kept speaking, but I'd stopped listening to him. The feeling of being watched had returned, this time with a vengeance that caused a cascade of shivers to shoot out my spine. For a moment, I resisted the urge to look around, and I cast my eyes towards a set of windows to the outside, where someone began this. On the outside of a cruise ship? Oh, man.
Yeah, who's staying on the ship, you know?
Well, I mean, it's he's looking outside, so it would be on the side of the ship, right?
Well, I assume that he's probably like on a deck, looking in, is what I would assume.
I see what you're saying. I only caught a glimpse of the figure for a moment before they realized they'd been spotted and yanked their head back out of sight. But it was enough to see what looked like a small boy, a young teenager.
Hey!
I shouted out, rushing over to the window. It didn't open, but I was able to crane my neck enough to look around the corner. The deck was empty in all directions, but I knew I hadn't seen things. There had been someone there.
Hey, guys! Did any of you see that?
There's no answer from behind me. I can imagine them looking at me like I've just grown two heads. They'll probably think I'm nuts.
Seriously, I'm not kidding! I saw someone out there!
I still don't respond. I felt a slight pang of irritation flow through me and turned back, beginning to speak.
Guys, don't be assholes! I'm asking you!
The smoking room was empty. My voice died in my throat, and I felt a wave of confusion wash over me. What the hell? I looked around, my eyes wandering to the ornate wooden bar that lined the back of the room. There's nobody over there either.
What the hell? Did they freaking leave?
Breathed out incredulously. The irritation I felt a moment ago reared its head again, and I strode to the open doors to the hallway.
Hey, assholes! What the hell's the matter with you? We're not supposed to split up!
My voice echoed away into the gloom, bouncing off the wooden walls and dying away. But nobody answered. Thought suddenly entered my mind. This better not be a prank. This is not the time or place for that shit. I knew that the three men loved to play practical jokes on themselves and the rest of the crew, but I would have thought they know better than to pull them with this predicament. I let out a deep sigh and began to walk down the hall, my footsteps muted by the carpeted floor.
If this is a joke, I'll fucking wring your necks.
I muttered, reaching a T-junction and shining my light down it. Empty and silent. I kept going straight, passing by a sign showing the direction of the gym and movie theater. I remembered hearing Spencer talk about it and quickened my pace. I expected the sound of their voice to slowly begin filtering down to me. But as I approached the door to it, when I shone the light inside, reflecting off rowing machines, stationary bikes, and other exercise equipment I didn't recognize, my exasperation grew.
Know what? Screw this.
I said through gritted teeth, snatching the walkie-talkie from my belt and thumbing it.
Hey, Captain, you're not gonna like this, but the others quite literally abandoned me and ran off to God only knows where. I'm trying to find them, but they've completely fucked off. Any advice on what I should do? Over.
A wall of static greeted me as I let go of the transmit button. Nobody answered. I hit the button again.
Captain, do you read me? I'm alone. The others have run off. Over.
More static. Began to fiddle with the dials, changing channels. Interference, stupid piece of shit. I hit the button again.
Hello? Does anybody read me? Over.
The static suddenly stopped. The hallway went silent, a silence I've never experienced before, one that seemed to be alive, if that makes any sense. Then, a voice suddenly tumbled from the walkie-talkie speaker. My eyes shot down to the radio in my hand, my breath catching in my throat. It felt like someone had just poured a bucket of ice water down my back. That wasn't the captain's voice. That wasn't any of the crew's voice. For a moment, I debated saying nothing, and I slowly pressed down the transmit button, throat garnished dry as cotton. The voice coming out gaspy and rapid. For a few seconds, there was no reply, and then came the voice again. A man's voice. My heart began to thump hard in my chest, and my breathing quickened.
What the actual fuck, man?
I forced myself to hit the button again, forced my voice to come out much calmer than I felt.
Who the hell are you?
There's another stretch of silence, in which I began to furiously look over my shoulders, the feeling of paranoia growing by the second. And then my blood turned to ice as a new sound emanated from the radio speaker. The sound of a man beginning to laugh. Another laugh joined the first, this time a woman. I stared at the radio as if it were possessed as more and more people's laughter began to filter in. It sounded as if an entire room full of people had just found what I'd said the most hilarious thing they'd ever heard. Fear began to fill every fiber of my being. A new kind of fear different from the one I'd felt in the storm last night. And then it climaxed as a horrifying scream. One that sounded like a woman being brutally murdered tore from the speaker. I practically flung the walkie-talkie out of my hand to the floor, clapping a hand over my mouth as I backed up into the wall. As soon as the scream finished, the radio went silent. Dead. For a few moments I stood there, hand still clapped over my mouth and staring at the radio like it was about to sprout legs and chase me. I fought to get my racing heart, shuddering and breathing under control. The logical part of my mind trying to make sense of things. You're panicking. You're panicking, and you're panicking so much that you're beginning to experience auditory hallucinations. When the mind breaks, it conjures up things that aren't there. What you need to do is get outside into the fresh air. Fresh air will do you good. I took a deep breath, feeling myself beginning to calm. The fear I felt began to melt away like ice in spring. I shook my head.
Yeah. You're supposed to be the calm and rational type, Rogers.
I whispered to myself, I let out a soft laugh and took a step towards my dropped radio. But I stopped as I felt my foot step on something. Something that wasn't the carpet. Looked down at the floor. There, crushed under my foot, was what appeared to be a folder of some sort. No, not a folder. I crouched down under my right as I took the object up. There was artwork on the cover. I could see a violin, a film reel, shuffleboard, and other items decorating the cover. Big, blocky black letters in the middle of the cover read, "Program for today." And in the bottom right-hand corner was the word "Cunard" in cursive scrawl. I looked at the cover as I walked over and picked the radio up, putting it back to my belt. Focusing my attention on it was helping me rapidly calm. I decided to quickly flip it open and see what it said. There were only 2 pages inside. The top of the left page was adorned with the word "Notices," while the right page was headlined by "Program of Events." My eyes began to slide down them, silently reading it out, until my mind caught up with my eyes. Wait, I didn't just see that, did I? I flashed the light back up to the top right of the page, where the date was stamped. Thursday, June 21st, 1956.
What?
I blinked my eye a couple times, silently praying that the date would change. I was seeing things. But no, it remained the same. I began to feel my heart pound in my chest again.
This makes no fucking sense, man.
For a moment, my mind flashed back to the comment I had seen that morning, about the ship having sunk decades ago. I shook my head and tried to stay calm. Oh, just get the hell outside, Nathan. Taking a breath, I turned to head back in the direction of the smoking room. I froze. The program fell from my hand to the floor. My heart thundered in my chest and my breathing came short and ragged gas. There were figures standing in the hallway down by the T-junction. I couldn't tell how many, only enough that they blocked the way back. In the gloom, I couldn't see any features, just the dark outlines of them. Remembering the flashlight in my hands, I began to raise it to aim at them. That's when the light flickered out. I was plunged into gloom as I stared down at the light, smacking it and mentally pleading for it to come back to life, but it was no use. The light was dead. Realization suddenly filled me as my mind screamed at me that I'd taken my eyes away from the figures. When I snapped my head up, I almost screamed. They had drawn closer, packing the hallway from wall to wall. They made no noise at first, and then I heard the whispering begin. It started quietly, almost to the point I thought I was hearing things, but then it began to grow louder. I couldn't tell what was being said. The voices were so low it was impossible to distinguish individual words. Even so, I felt a new bolt of terror shoot through me at the sound, and then my fear compounded as I saw the figures take a step towards me. I began to violently shake as I slowly began to back away. Then they came for me. The figures were suddenly a blur of motion, moving far faster than any human being could. They streamed towards me, the whispering suddenly intensifying to a fever pitch. Caught off guard, I stumbled backwards, tripping over my own feet and falling to the floor. My right elbow slammed into the wood paneling, and I felt a bolt of pain shoot up my arm. Figures swarmed over me, the whispering morphing into laughter, and screaming. A moment later, more screaming began. My screams. I raised my arms over my head, covering my face and curling into a ball. Tears began rolling down my face, and I felt at any moment I'd be torn apart.
Nathan!
The shout cut through the silence. I stopped screaming, but kept my arms over my head protectively. Then I felt a hand begin to roughly shake me.
I'm out of range.
The terror returned, and I lashed out.
Get the fuck off me!
The voice came again, a familiar voice.
Hey, easy, bro, easy.
The realization made me lower my arms and open my eyes. 3 faces, etched with panic and fear, looked down at me. For a second, I fought to find my voice.
Andrew, Will, Spence?
Relief crossed the faces of my crewmates.
He's back!
Andrew said quietly, wiping visible sweat from his brow. I uncurled myself and sat up and looked around. I was lying on the floor of the smoking room. Close to the windows, I'd seen the figure outside. Sunlight still streamed in, laying on where I collapsed to the floor. Looked up at the others.
What the hell happened?
Spencer shook his head, still looking rattled, but Andrew again answered me.
Dude, I have no fucking idea.
One minute you were talking about going to check out the other areas of the ship. The next you suddenly yelled and ran to the window. Then you just started rolling a statue routine. You didn't respond to anything we said. You just stared at the ocean, not moving and not blinking, until you suddenly fell to the floor and began screaming.
Let out a shaky breath of his own.
You scared the ever-living shit out of us.
I blinked rapidly, my mind trying to make sense of his words. Had I really hallucinated everything? Had it all just been in my head? I stumbled to my feet, aided by Will and Spencer. Andrew just kept looking at me, concerned look on his face. I took a deep breath of my own.
I'm okay.
My voice sounded far calmer and surer than I felt.
You sure?
I nodded.
I must have gotten less sleep last night than I thought. The stress and the sleep must have made me, I don't know, fall asleep standing up or something?
I could see the other two relax immediately, taking my words at face value, but Andrew continued to look at me for a moment, seemingly unconvinced. Finally, he nodded. The sound of static stabbed through the air, causing me to almost jump out of my skin. Then the sound of the captain's voice rang over the radio on my belt.
Business, boys.
I heard him declare happily. A moment later, I felt the floor beneath my feet shudder slightly from what must have been the boilers coming to life. And then the lights came on, all throughout the ship. The smoking room became ablaze with the yellow light of what had been the incandescent bulbs, banishing away the gloom that lurked in the corners like monsters in the closet. I began to say something to the others when a new sound began. Music. Music began spilling out from what had been the hidden speakers of the walls or ceiling. It echoed all throughout the deck. I could hear the instruments, along with the woman's crooning voice reverberating far down the hallway, and likely all throughout the ship as well. Spencer looked up the walls.
Man, that's one hell of an old song.
Andrew nodded, still looking hard at me. I suddenly snapped his fingers.
I know this song. My grandmother used to play it all the time when I was a little kid.
He began snapping his fingers again, thinking hard.
It's by a singer from the 40s and 50s called, I think, Joe Stafford.
Now Andrew did take his eyes off me, looking over at me.
What's the song's name?
He asked, mildly interested. Will thought for another moment before answering.
You Belong to Me.
As if on cue, the singing voices sang out the four words. Couldn't help but shiver slightly, still feeling as if I jumped through from Kansas to Oz and then been booted back to reality. Cleared my throat.
Hey guys, would you mind not telling the captain about what happened with me?
They looked at me for a moment, thinking.
Yeah, sure, Nate. As long as you don't ever do that again.
Feeling relieved, I nodded. Spencer spoke up.
Come on. We should try and meet back up with the captain.
Figure out what to do next.
With that, I walked out of the room, Will following close after him. Andrew shot me one more look.
Sure you're alright?
I nodded.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I raised my right arm to rub the back of my neck as he began. But I stopped as a throbbing pain suddenly shot up my arm. I let out a small gasp of pain, bringing my left hand over to feel the back. As soon as my fingers touched my right elbow, another sear of pain rippled out. I turned and looked at where I'd fallen. There was nothing there for me to have slammed my elbow into, and the carpet had been thick and plush, too plush to have hurt myself. The mental image of falling back in the hallway suddenly burst forth in my mind, falling as those figures rushed towards me, whispering, laughing, and screaming. My eyes slowly rose to look down the now bright hallway. Looking from where I could see the sign showing the location of the gym, I shuddered. It's just a hallucination, wasn't it? I swallowed hard, forcing the thought from my head. I hurried to catch up to the others. We met the captain and the others back in the lounge we'd spent the night in. They found a way to turn the music off, and for that I was thankful. All we'd heard as we walked through the ship had been songs that sounded like they were 70 years ago or older. All they did was remind me of the program I'd clutched in my hand, seeing the date on it. We could tell they must have been breaking their backs to get the boilers going. Sweat and black stains covered their faces and clothes. The captain glanced down at his watch.
We have only about an hour or so daylight left. Let's try and make our way to the radio room to see if we can send out a distress call. After that, we'll figure out where to go from there.
We all nodded and hurried after the man as he led the way. The room wasn't hard to find at all. Once we'd entered the upper levels of the ship, ones I could tell were meant for crew only, the signs led us right to it. My hopes of being able to get off rose with each step we took, then were dashed as we reached the closed door to it. The captain reached out and attempted to turn the handle, but it refused to turn. A few of us gathered up next to him and attempted to force it to open, and it wouldn't budge a single inch.
Damn it! It's locked.
Captain growled as he finally gave up. Felt my heart sink. Could see the same expression on everyone else's face. But then the captain continued.
Okay. That means there's got to be a set of keys somewhere on board that can get us in there.
He rapped on the metal door with his knuckles.
So our next job is to find them. They'll likely be in the crew's sleeping quarters, maybe in the captain's cabin.
He looked at his watch again.
But that'll be a job for tomorrow. We should head back to the lounge, get some food and water on our systems, and get some sleep. We've done a good job today. And finding our way through the ship now, as she has power, is going to be much easier.
I felt equal parts dismay and anxiety as I followed the others back to the lounge. And as much as I tried to ignore it, I still felt watched. The lights didn't help one bit. I kept looking back over my shoulder, afraid I would see the boy I'd seen in the smoking room window again. Or worse, the shadowy figures. Thankfully, though, I never did. And we made it uneventfully back to the lounge where we ate our dinner, packages of MREs that had been part of our emergency supplies, and then began to settle down for the night. I used the solar charger I'd left outside all day to charge the laptop. As I booted it up, Will came over.
You truly all right, man?
Quietly asked me. I nodded at him, giving him a false smile. He sighed.
You know, as much of a fucked up situation as we're in, the only good part was hearing that sound again. I haven't heard it since my grandmother passed away.
I looked up at him.
You like that kind of music? Honestly, I like everything about that time period. The 1950s, I mean. Like the music, the movies, the celebrities, the cars. Between you and me, bro, I like it a lot more than the 21st century. If they invented time travel in my lifetime, I'd go back there in a heartbeat and never come back.
He let out a soft laugh and patted me on the shoulder and walked away to his sleeping bag. I watched him go, then looked over at the captain. He gazed around at everyone, looked over at me. And I started slightly. Saw something in his eyes that I wasn't used to seeing. Worry. Worry and fear. Did he see something down in the engine room? Also, but my prediction, by the way, is what was that guy's name who just got Will? Will 100% is going to get like sucked into the the 1950s time loop after that quote. There's no way. Yeah.
Monkey Paul's wish.
He is going to the abyss. He's going to the time prison on the ship. Just as quickly, it washed away, and he nodded at me. I returned the gesture, and he pointed at the laptop in my lap. It was an unspoken question. Are you going to try sending a message out again? I nodded, and he stood up, stretching his arms over his head and yawning before shaking his head slightly and heading for his own sleeping bag. And now, here I am, the only one left awake again. The captain turned out most of the lights in the lounge, something I really did not like, so I moved over to a table that remained upright, one that had a lamp built into the middle of it, and turned it on. I now sat here typing this out, but I can't help but look up, my eyes starting around the dark, expanse of room. I'm terrified every time I take my eyes off the screen. I'll see those figures again. I'm standing in the dark and staring at them. I wish so much that we could just jump into one of the lifeboats on the side of the ship, lower it into the sea, and row away from this godforsaken place as fast as we could. But with only about a week and a half's worth of food and supplies, no idea where we were, we could end up rowing directly into the middle of the Atlantic if we're not there already. Like I said at the start, when I first started this day, I felt for sure you all had to be wrong. That just because this ship was named Queen Elizabeth, it didn't mean it was the same one that caught fire and saved long ago. But after what I saw in that hallway, both the program from 1956 and those things that I truly don't know whether I hallucinated or not, I'm starting to believe you might be right. As much as my logical mind tries to tell me it's impossible, I think we might have jumped out of the frying pan of our sinking ship and into the literal fire. And honestly, I'm beyond terrified. I have no idea how I'm going to sleep tonight. I think in the morning, I'll see about getting myself some kind of weapon. A chair leg, knife, something. May not do anything against any kind of ghost, but it might make me feel better. Please, if you're still there, if you end up reading this, please let me know what we should do tomorrow. Should we try and find a piece in the radio room like the captain suggested? Should we do something else? Is there anything that I might be missing here? Does anyone know anything more about the Queen Elizabeth? Anything that might give me a clue as to why this is happening? Just to direct us to any important places? Anything you can think of might help us. God knows all the help we can get.
End of part 2.
You know, I like that it's going this paranormal route. Like a ghost ship. In theory, I feel like a ghost ship from a forgotten past sounds kind of corny, but it's working really well here. I think also
They
just
play it
showing
well.
that each person kind of goes into their own hell when they basically experience these phenomenons, these like ghosts almost, right? So it seems like Nathan, our main character, he experienced it, and so did Captain. Is what I think.
Yeah, I think it's it is a theoretically corny idea, but it's played in such a way here where it's like more personal torment, and like I think I'm just so in love with the setting that I'm willing to like look over any other
I think
issues with it. I'm like, yep,
I think the setting is fun, but I think what's important here that makes the story not go into super cheesy or like corny areas, that it's good characters. If you don't have good characters in your story that you care about, no one's going to give a fuck. So you can, if your characters, if you have likable characters, then that's all you need to really have to make a compelling story, to make it more emotionally tied in. And right now, I like all the guys. Like, I think all of the characters seem to be, I don't know, just well crafted. I like Nathan and Gabe, the captain, a lot. So
yeah, every time you quote him, I imagine Captain Price from Call of Duty. Sounds in my head.
Yeah.
But then I like the idea of like Andrew being like kind of skeptical of him and stuff like that. Like it's playing it pretty well so far.
On to part 3.
The only phrase I know how to describe our current situation right now is up shit creek without a paddle. Things have gone from bad to far, far worse since last night. But to tell the truth, everyone now is scared out of their damn minds. Well, almost everyone, but I'll get to that in a minute. Before I say anything, let me again say thank you to those of you who commented on last night's post. Despite everything that happened today, we managed to make some progress, and I can't help but think it was thanks to you all giving us some direction. Let me quickly answer a few things that you have brought up. First and foremost, as soon as I opened the laptop and saw the comment, I went and pulled one of the maps of the ship off the wall, looking to see if there's any sort of chapel or religious gathering areas for us to pull up in. Unfortunately, the Queen Elizabeth seems to never have had one built aboard her, so that idea's out. Secondly, the reason why we set up base camp in the lounge is because it was the first place we reached when we came aboard. It's the place we know best. After yesterday, though, and specifically with our current predicament, I'm beginning to think moving to one or two adjoining cabins might be a better idea. Not as much room for anyone or anything to creep on us. That being said, let me tell you what happened today. We were aroused by the captain just after 10 in the morning.
Come on, Nate.
He said softly to me, shaking my shoulder.
We've got work to do today.
Then he moved away to wake the others. For another minute, I simply lay there, staring up at the ornate ceiling high above our heads. Horrible mental images of the shadowy figures followed me into my nightmares, and I dreamed of running down dark, seemingly endless hallways, figures always just a step behind me. I shivered slightly as I remembered the voice welcoming me, welcoming all of us aboard. I think forcing another day as I pulled myself from the sleep back into my feet. Once everyone was awake, we all quickly had breakfast before I broke out the computer to see what people had said. I quickly scrolled down to the comments I saw were there as the others came over. As much as I wanted to tell the others about what I'd seen yesterday, a small part of me whispered that none of them would believe me. Especially after what Andrew, Spencer, and Will said they saw happen to me. If anything similar happens to me or anyone else, I'll tell them, not until then. Everyone gathered around to read what you all suggested. I could tell to them it was like a lighthouse beacon to guide them to safety. I couldn't help but feel a small pang of disappointment flow through me as they again dismissed the ghost ship comments, even though I'd known it was coming. Apart from potentially the captain to me, nobody else had seen anything out of the ordinary. Shut a glance his way as he leaned in to read the screen. Any trace of fear I'd seen last night had been wiped away, replaced by his usual calm, calculated expression.
Well, at least people seem to agree with my idea to find the keys.
He said finally, standing back up and seeming somewhat pleased. Wyatt leaned in and pointed at another comment.
Cap, what about this person's suggestion to move from the lounge to some of the cabins to sleep? It'd be a hell of a lot more comfortable than than another night on the floor.
The captain rubbed his beard, thinking.
They may have a point. I wasn't able to get much sleep last night. We moved our stuff into some of the first-class cabins.
Just as the same as yesterday, we were paired off into two teams. Captain Andrew and Spencer would head off to the crew quarters to try and find the keys, while myself, Wyatt, Will, and Vinny tried to find any food we could add to our slowly dwindling supplies. I very much didn't want us splitting up again, after both what you all had said and what I've experienced, but try as I might to say so to the captain, he remained steadfast.
We need to cover as much ground as possible, mate.
He said after we dumped our stuff into some adjoining cabins near the lounge, and with that he turned and hustled the other two in his group away. He watched them go, saying a silent prayer for them to be safe before turning to the others.
Well, which way do we go?
Vinny asked, gesturing to the many hallways that branched away from us. I looked down and studied the map of the ship for a moment. My eyes drifted past the maze of rooms and lounging areas before settling on a large area near the stern of the ship.
How about we start here? At what looks like a restaurant called the Veranda Grill?
Three men craned to look at the map.
Sure, why not?
Wyatt said, shrugging his shoulders. With our destination set, we turned and began heading aft. Passing through the lounge, we found ourselves in more hallways that seemed to stretch on forever.
Man, they had a lot of cabins just in first class alone.
Vinny said as we passed a small sitting area looking out onto the starboard side of the ship, and he lowered his voice slightly.
Hey, did any of you have anything weird happen to you yesterday?
The question caused me to stop dead in my tracks.
What do you mean weird?
Everyone stopped now. Wyatt let out a soft groan.
Oh, come on, Vin. Nothing weird happened yesterday. The captain said so.
But I could tell he wasn't being completely honest. Will's brow furrowed.
What are you guys talking about?
Took a step towards Vinny.
Something happened to you guys down there in the engine room.
Wyatt let out a protest, but Vinny seemed to ignore it.
I don't know, man. All I know is we're down there working like crazy to get the boilers up and running. When I looked over at Captain, he stopped in the middle of giving us directions. And I had no idea what to do next.
Saw the big man shiver slightly before continuing.
He had the creepiest expression on his face. It was like he'd been hypnotized to something. The lights were on, but no one was home. Then he just snapped out of it. He looked absolutely terrified for half a second. Then seemed to remember what was happening and kept going.
Wyatt cut in.
That's because he didn't get much sleep last night. He literally told us that when you asked him what was up. I swear to God, Vinny, you're making a mountain out of a molehill with this dude.
Vinny shot a slightly irritated stare at him before turning back to Will and me.
I just need to know. Did any of you have anything weird or unusual happen to you guys yesterday?
I exchanged a glance with Will. His expression was that of a perfect poker face. And the look in his eyes betrayed what raced behind him. For a moment, neither of us said anything. I debated whether to become clean about my experience, but Will spoke before I did.
No, nothing like that.
Nothing besides accidentally tripping over an overturned chair.
Yeah, they shouldn't do that. That's a horrible idea.
Well, I thought that he was already going to say that. He's like, if anybody brings it up, I'll tell them. I wonder why he just didn't outright say, yeah, it happened to me too.
He should be like, no, this is the thing that happened. We don't know what's going on. We need to have all the cards on the table. This is not time for whatever this is. Yeah, absolutely. I felt a wave of surprise shoot through me. The entire time I'd known Will, I'd never known him to deliberately lie. He was someone who always told the truth, even if it ended bad for him. Where the hell did this side of him come from?
There, see? All is as well as it can be.
Wyatt said triumphantly.
Happy now, Vin?
Saw him study our faces for another moment before shrugging.
All right. Guess it really was nothing.
And with that, turned and began walking down the hall again. I spared another glance at Will, but he simply shrugged at me and turned to follow them. I stared after him for a moment, unable to move, until a familiar shiver shot up my spine, one that indicated I was being watched. I swung my head around, looking behind me back down the hallway. Nobody was there. Nobody I could see. So another ship passed through and turned and jogged to catch up to the others. We found a set of stairs that, according to the sign next to them, led down to the restaurant deck from where we were on the main deck. Heading down a few flights, we found ourselves on yet another landing. Will suddenly let out a small laugh and pointed.
Hey guys, check it out!
Across the landing from us was what looked like a small booth. Glass and metal bars separated the person who sat inside from everyone outside. Looking up, I saw a sign hanging over the window. Purser's office.
That must be where you drop off any paperwork you need to travel aboard, along with valuables you want locked in the ship's safe.
Wyatt said. He let out a laugh.
You think there's anything valuable still in there? Jewelry, cash, shit like that?
Turned to him, feeling a bit astonished.
You're joking, right? Hey, we're alone aboard on here. If you took anything, I don't think anyone would know.
He said, grinning slightly.
Yeah, until the ship gets brought back to dock and the owners discover shit missing from their dumbass.
Then he said in a displeased tone. Now it was Wyatt's turn to make him an irritated look.
He's just kidding, jeez.
He looked down at the floor.
Children.
For my part, I gave him a long look, then looked over at the purser's office again. I don't think there'd be anyone on land who'd be pissed if we stole anything, I thought. Before one else could say anything, the radio let out a squawk. My heart momentarily began to thud in my chest. For a moment, I was terrified I'd hear the man's voice from it again. Instead, the elated voice of the captain came.
Nate, we found the keys. They're hidden away in the desk in the captain's cabin.
A feeling of relief washed over me, and I pulled the walkie-talkie from my belt and thumbed it as I saw relieved smiles cross the others' faces.
That's terrific, Cap. You want us to head straight to the radio room?
The man spoke again, a sharp burst of static masking his voice.
Say again?
I need to get
Now the man's voice came in loud and clear.
Negative, Nathan. We might still need some supplies. We don't know how long it'll take for anyone to reach us. We're gonna begin running low on food soon. Go check out the restaurants like you were planning, and then come meet us.
Wyatt's face fell at his words, but I saw the other two nod at me.
Roger that, Cap. We'll try and be quick as we can. Over and out.
With that, I clicked off.
Come on, guys. This way.
I said, pointing to a sign at the start of the left hallway. Veranda Grill, this way. Four of us made our way down the hallway. A porthole stood open halfway down it. As we passed it, the smell of the ocean filled me. I slowed to take a deep breath of it, letting it invigorate my and froze. I didn't just see that. I did not just see that. I knew I had. As we passed the porthole, I'd shot a glance out, hoping to catch a quick glimpse of the relatively calm waters, and I'd caught a split-second glimpse of someone walking past it. It had been too quick to see anything besides a blur, but it had been enough. I felt the fear of yesterday return. Oh shit, not again, man. My heart raced in my chest, and I felt a lump in my throat.
Hey, you all right, Nate?
The voice snapped me back, and I looked up to see the others had turned to look at me. All of them were confused expressions on their faces. I thought to find my voice for a second, then spoke, trying to sound calm.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
Will cocked his head at me, giving me an odd look, but didn't say anything. Fusing the urge to look out the porthole again, I started walking, pushing past them to begin removing.
Come on, let's go get this over with.
For a moment, I heard nothing behind me, then I heard the others follow.
Holy freaking shitballs!
Wyatt breathed out.
That's... wow.
We stood at the entrance to the restaurant next to a small sign that read, "Please wait here to be seated." For my part, I couldn't blame him for such a reaction. Even after what just happened, I couldn't help but feel in awe of the expansive room in front of us. Like the rest of the ship, wooden paneling covered the walls. The only difference was that in here, squares of tiles of aquamarine have been indented into them. Some had ornate shapes, and across the room saw a massive painting or stitching of what appeared to be a woman clad in ancient Greek or Roman clothing. Below her, 4 horses reared up as if to charge, while several men seemed to hold everything up in the midair. Tables with expensive-looking tablecloths littered the room, the sea green upholstered chairs around them almost inviting people to come and sit in them. Shooting a glance to my right, I saw a huge grand piano
I'm
set
out of
against the
range.
far wall and a huge aquamarine curtain covering what must be a window to the stern deck.
I don't even want to imagine what it must have cost to eat in here.
Vinny said, causing everyone to laugh softly.
You're not joking.
I replied, then pointed across the room at a metal swinging door.
Look, there's the door to the kitchen.
Winding our way through the sea of tables and chairs, we reached the door and stopped in front of it. I turned back to the others.
All right. Cross your fingers we find something, guys.
Taking a deep breath, I put my hand to the metal and pushed. We found ourselves in a huge industrial kitchen. Pots and pans of all kinds hung from hooks on the ceiling, and multiple stoves stretched away on the far wall. Fanning out, we began to explore the room, opening cabinets and drawers.
Got what looks like flour here.
Benny called, holding up a large white bag. Let something, please. Continuing on, we pulled out more than a few ingredients, but nothing we could immediately eat. It got worse when we opened a giant fridge and saw nothing but items like butter and milk inside.
Damn it.
Wyatt suddenly yelled, slamming the fridge closed with a slam. He leaned back against the door, leaning his head back, and he spoke softly.
Look, man, if they were at port when the storm ripped her away, it stands to reason there might not have been much in the restaurants. We still have the holds and the meat lockers to go through. At least we found some things.
Wyatt's eyes snapped open and he glared at the man.
Oh, yeah? That's always just like you, Vin. You've always got to try and cheer people up when they're not talking shit about things that have no merit.
I realized the situation must have been eating heavily at him, and it was finally bursting out. Benny narrowed his eyes and took a step towards him, clenching his fist.
Hey, fuck you, man! At least I'm not the dumbass who thinks about robbing a ship when we should be searching for food.
The two of them began to shout at each other, their voices filling up the room and bouncing off the metal walls. I shot a glance at Will, who wore a helpless expression on his face. Finally, it got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore.
Shut up, both of you!
I screamed out the
That's
top.
gonna be it for tonight. I will see you guys next weekend. Appreciate you for tuning in. And hope you'll have a good rest of your week.